All right, good evening and welcome to the January 13th meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals here at Falmouth Town Hall. Calling the meeting to order and ask everyone to please silence their cell phones at this time. I'll introduce the board, starting at my far right. Your far left is Jerry Patamas, who is an associate member of the board. To my immediate right is Scott Zelinski, who is the vice chair. My name is TJ Hurry. I am the chair of the board. To my left is James Morse, who is a full voting member, and I'll be appointing him as acting clerk for the night. To his left is Scott Peterson, who is an associate member. Also with us tonight is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, who is the recording secretary for the night. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town, and we consider requests for special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's Office for the Commonwealth. The board's goal the decisions are made through the public hearing process. The board's goal is to hear testimony from the applicant, from the public, and also to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments, and summarizing correspondences to the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant, and the public will be invited to comment as well. Public comment should only be directed at the project itself. We ask you to please refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. Public comment can include an opinion in favor, in opposition, or it might just simply be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time in the event that comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair. Come to the podium to your left. We ask you to please state your name and address for the record. We do limit public comment to 2 minutes per person, and we ask you to please stand behind the podium, speak into the microphone. That microphone there is not for amplification purposes within this room. It is for the benefit of those watching at home on FCTV. As for closing or continuing the hearing, when the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision, by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will be closed. On the alternative, we may continue the hearing to a future date and time certain. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. And for board discussion and decision, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves. We would then make a motion to either deny or approve. That would be made and voted upon. A motion will include a summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, would be a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. So that does it for our normal announcements. And just speaking to the board before we got underway, tonight is the first night that we're all wearing masks as required in Falmouth Town Hall. And I have tried myself to speak a little louder than usual because I've been told those in the back might not be able to hear as well. Has everyone back there been able to hear me just fine? Great. So I'll try to keep my voice. I'll encourage everyone else to do the same and try to speak a little slower and louder than usual, just so everyone hears what's going on. So turning to the agenda, we do have public comment, 2 continuations. We have 4 new hearings, and a few more items on our open meeting agenda. So first up for tonight is public comment. This public comment period is meant for anything that is not on the agenda. So if you're here to comment on a case, just wait for that to be called at the appropriate time in the evening. But for right now, does anyone have any sort of public comment for something that is not on the agenda? Sir?
I am William Marston, 426 Locust Field, and you all, you know me. When we went through all the stuff and the meetings, and we had it jammed with all the neighbors,
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
if you're going to discuss Beach Plum Path, that is on the agenda tonight.
it is on the agenda?
It is on the agenda
Oh,
during
okay,
our
then.
opening meeting item as number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Anything else that might not be on the agenda tonight? All right, moving right ahead into our continuations, we have application 95-21, Corbett, 66 Allen Ave in Falmouth, requesting a special permit to remove the existing detached garage and construct a pool, increasing lot coverage by structures. Voting members on this project are myself, Scott Zelinski, Bob Dugan, James Morse, and Jerry Patamas, and Bob is not with us tonight. And if I haven't already done it, I'm appointing James as the acting clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we've received some additional correspondence since the last hearing. Email attachment from John Corbett to Kevin Clower, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals. Hello, Robert Butcher. Thank you for meeting with me yesterday. It was also very helpful to have Robert Cabral and Mike Mueller available to answer and explain the project. Here is my understanding of what we discussed to alleviate your concerns related to completing the house, pool, and landscaping. 1, sound control. Install a 7-foot cedar fence along our shared boundary. To be installed on all of the Corbett side of the bound using a minimum 10-foot post with either solid wood fence or 1-foot lattice on the top section. Material is already in, was ordered summer of 2021 from Scott Thero, owner of Anchor Fence. Offered to extend Anchor Fence labor to support, move, reinstall existing fence along the shared boundary. Fence will end about where the butcher's garage driveway meet or at close to the front of the Corbett's house. Plants or maybe a small transitional or decorative fence past this point will mutually agree to what works best. To further control any potential sound, 8 to 10-foot American pillar arborvitae evergreen trees will be installed on the 66 Allen side of the boundary with approximately 3-foot spacing in manner close enough to build a privacy shield. Light pollution. There are no floodlights in the back of the house and no plans to add floodlighting. The electrical work has already been completed. Robert Butcher saw the outlets for traditional decorative outdoor lights around entrances, but not directed at 76 Allen Avenue. Potential water runoff. Mike Mueller, owner Cloverfield Landscape, walked the lot with Robert Butcher explaining the grade of the landscape design. 66 Allen Ave is a very level lot and sees no issues for water runoff to 76 Allen Ave. 66 Allen Ave offered to extend Cloverfield labor to support 77 Allen Ave, buttressing of the 77 Allen Ave side of the fence with the butcher's own planting of their choices. 4, septic installation. Robert Cabral, Longfellow Build and Design Project Manager, explained the construction process and timeline to Robert Butcher. Robert C. estimated an outside time of 2 months to have the septic system installed and the fencing along with the landscaping reinstalled as agreed upon. Letter is meant for the Butchers and Jack Corbett to understand what was discussed today at 66 Allen Ave. If there is a meaningful fact that is missing, please let me know. Our goal is to be good neighbors and minimize the impact of new construction of the Butchers and our other neighbors. Thank you, Jack Corbett. And we also received a cover letter from Attorney Clower, the zoning administrator, with a revised site plan, a copy of email correspondence by Michael Mueller, owner of Cloverfield Property Care, regarding his professional opinion, the condition of the evergreens and rhododendrons along the property line, photographs provided by Michael Mueller regarding condition of the existing vegetation. I believe Mr. Clower can address the other content of the letter.
Very good. And that does it for the file.
I believe there was an email sent by Mr. Butcher as well, but that Mr. Corbett's letter was attached to that email.
This the email of, January 11th, 2022, 11:21 a.m.
Yes,
From Kevin Clower.
it's addressed.
Addressed to Attorney Clower and the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have attached a copy of the correspondence between John Corbett, Robert Butcher, that addresses the issues that were raised concerning the property on 66 Allen Avenue. After meeting with John Corbett, we have mutually decided the best way to mitigate the removal of the mature vegetation along the property line, address the lighting, noise, and privacy screening concerns. Found Mr. Corbett to be very sincere in his efforts to work with the neighborhood to address my concerns butters may have. Unless the ZBA has an issue with the agreement, I feel my concerns have been satisfactorily addressed. And that is signed Robert Butcher.
And Attorney Clower.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ament Clower Law Firm here in town, and I'm here tonight representing Jack and Nicole Corbett, the owners of 66 Allen Avenue, and they are seeking permission to install a swimming pool, which will result in lot coverage by structure of 21.82%. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Corbett, as well as Tom Bunker of BSS Design, and Rob Cabral, the project manager for this job with Longfellow Design Build. I believe a lot of the questions that the board raised at the last hearing have been addressed in the correspondence that were submitted, but I want to take a moment just to go over some things. There were some questions that came up regarding the site plan. A discrepancy was noted between the plan that was submitted with the building permit application and the plan submitted with the special permit application. Specifically, the setback from the southerly lot line to the bulkhead, a difference of 1.2 feet. It was shown as 35.4 on the building permit and 34.2 on the special permit application. That change was necessitated in order to accommodate the access stairs to the basement. That was correctly reflected on the as-built plan that was submitted to the town. The remainder of the house remains unchanged from the original permit. There was also a question relative to the garage, specifically as to why it was still there. It's always been the intent to remove the garage and the long driveway on the southern side of the property, and it's shown as removed on the original application. The garage has not yet been removed. So the intent of that is just to minimize the impact on the neighbor. It's the closest part to the lot line, and it was trying not to give them just a full-on view of an ongoing construction site. And however, the intent is still to remove it. The building permit application showed the removal of that garage and allowed lot coverage by structure of 19.26%. We're simply seeking 21.81 with the addition of the pool. I believe the question of the vegetation was addressed by the correspondence. Mr. Corbett has met with the neighbors extensively to try to address their concerns. And I believe that was all of the questions that came up, which brings us back to our request, which is special permit under 240-69E. As was noted, this dwelling conforms with the requirements of the zoning bylaw. The pool is the only issue relative to the special permit. The addition of this pool will have no impact on nitrogen to coastal payments, no impact on the size and height of the dwelling, no impact on shadow, and no impact on views and vistas from public ways. I don't believe that this proposal is substantially more detrimental than what exists, and I believe that the project meets the standards of 240-69E and 240-216. I'd be glad to address any questions that the board might have at this time, or perhaps Mr. Bunker or Mr. Cabral can, if I can.
Thank you, Attorney Clower. Board questions? Jerry, anything?
I'm confused. Does the previous permit require the removal of the garage?
The garage would need to be down in order to get a certificate of occupancy. It just hasn't come down yet in the construction process.
So you intend to do it?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's no need for Title V to be reviewed? You're not disturbing anything there?
No, there's going to be a new Title V system installed.
Okay, so you don't have an approval for that yet?
That's been approved.
Oh, it has been approved? Okay.
It just hasn't been installed yet.
No, but thank you.
Yep.
Scott?
I'm good.
James?
No questions.
Scott?
No questions.
All right. And no questions from me at the moment, so public comment. Is there any question, comment, or concern regarding this project? All right, not seeing anyone out there. Back to the board.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second Mr. Morse's motion.
All right, motion to close made by James and second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
This is unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. All right. How would the board like to proceed?
Make a motion to approve with conditions.
I'll second Mr. Morse's motion as well.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Scott. All right, so motion approved with conditions. Moving on to findings.
So 243C, 240-69E, not more detrimental. Applicant wishes to put in a pool. A detached garage is being eliminated. Through testimony, a cedar fence was requested by the neighbor. The applicant's testimony is agreeable to that. Property is currently on a 1-inch water main from a 6-inch main off of Allen Avenue. The existing home does not have a meter pit. Health had no comment.
Setback adjustment from 35.4 to 34.2. Abutter is in full agreement now after negotiations with the applicant. Through testimony, there was language about a 10-foot fence being installed and buttressed 10-foot evergreens.
Just for clarification, I think it was a 7-foot
7
fence
Oh, yeah.
with a 10-inch
Sorry.
post. big fence.
Lot coverage is going to 21.81%. No opposition at the hearing.
No public comment, period.
Revised site plan was submitted addressing board's concerns regarding discrepancies. Dry wells, excuse me. No new nonconformities created.
Groundwater, there was testimony that there should be no runoff onto a butter's property, given the topography of the lot.
And regarding those discrepancies, can we have just an explicit finding about the discrepancies? I think it came out to be 1 foot 2 inches there. All right, anything else for findings? About conditions?
For plans, comply with engineering comments, section 99.1 concerning legible numbers, erosion sediment control conditions, comment about driveway.
Chairman, I would ask that the applicant maintain open communication throughout the build with the abutters.
Install an approved Title V system.
That can go in the findings, too.
Mm-hmm.
Garage comes down.
Need to seek appropriate permit. I think there's a swimming pool permit you need to get. I don't know the number, but appropriate permit for construction of a swimming pool.
All right, anything else for conditions?
Yeah, building hours, times, dates, and hours.
They have one additional finding, it's outside Concom's jurisdiction.
Very good. And it's a corner lot, but is it tight?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Could they keep everything on site there?
Well, if they don't put the septic in right away, they can use that so they can stack where the new septic would be on site, and then do that on their way out and landscape. I mean, that's just a suggestion. It would keep stuff off the road.
That's basically been what they've been doing, which is why the
I
system
mean,
hasn't
we're
gone.
uptown on a corner. I mean, it is what it is. Just,
All right, so keep it on site to the extent possible, and
right.
you need to work with Falmouth PD in terms of
Yeah, yeah.
construction.
Because there's going to be cement trucks. There's going to be steel trucks when they. I don't know if it's a fitted pool or a blown pool, but.
All right, anything else for conditions?
Okay, not for me.
I'm good.
Paul, anyone? All right, so that was a motion to approve with conditions made by James and second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank
Good
you,
luck.
Attorney Clower. We'll let some people filter out before we call the next one.
Right.
People.
Mr. Corbett, what's in the box?
My kind neighbors received a package, which is lighting, and they were kind enough to bring it to the meeting.
Oh, good, because,
My wife had sent me down here to get this.
oh, good.
Look at that cooperation.
Good to see you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
All right, so next on our agenda, we have the continuation of application 57-17M, North Star Place LLC, 123 Brick Kiln Road in East Falmouth, requesting a modification to comprehensive permit 57-17 to allow modifications to previously approved plans. Voting members on this project are myself, Scott Zelinski,
Nick,
Bob
can you do me a
Dugan,
favor? Can
and
you
James
just tell them to
Morse.
just keep it down, please? Thank you. Sorry, Ted.
No, no worries. All right, and before we get underway, I know that Bob Dugan is not here.
Oops, sorry.
Sure, you didn't hear me to silence your cell phones
I
before we
mean,
got going?
I did silence it. I gotta shut it off. Apologize.
All right, before we get underway on this application, Bob Dugan indicated in an email to myself and Noreen, he's not here tonight due to a personal matter, but he is electing to exercise the Mullen Rule, so he'll be able to review tonight's meeting, attest to the fact that he reviewed the file, watched it on FCTV, and supply that affidavit to the town clerk's office and to the file. So he will be able to vote on the matter at another date. So, with that out of the way, Mr. Marioni, go right ahead.
So we've, since the last meeting, we've finished up the as-built showing the existing conditions, and to get right to it, I'm going to point out two issues that came up with the as-built this week, last week, actually. Right at this spot here, there's a piece of the fence that we put up up front that's on a neighbor's property. There's a piece of the sidewalk right here, same condition. Not much we can do about the sidewalk now. We're gonna fix the fence as soon as the ground thaws enough to do it. Next week, we hope. This sheet shows the Mr. Dugan had asked to show where the dumpster was supposed to go in this red area here. This is where the parking was supposed to be. The parking is actually here where the dumpster is. Dumpster was supposed to be. And this is the proposed shed. We're showing curb stops in lieu of the sidewalk. And the dumpsters are not there, as we're showing pull carts for the trash pickup. And I believe that was, then Noreen sent an email asking about the Building 8, and it is shown on the as-built here wider than the other buildings. And you can notice that the parking's wider also because of the handicap parking spaces. So that's shown on the as-built, and the other things that were asked for are shown on the as-built. Of course, the curb stops are proposed. Any questions?
All right, board questions? Jerry, anything?
When will the sidewalk be repaired, when it's good weather?
Probably, we can't really remove it off there, then we won't have a sidewalk. We were thinking of possibly cutting it up and putting stone there temporarily. If the board wishes that we do that, we will, but.
But you'll still be on someone else's property?
No, it'll come back on ours.
Oh, okay, okay.
Anything else, Jerry?
No.
Scott?
So then, to piggyback off of Mr. Patamus's first question, there are all the sidewalks, the width to spec now, other than those two spots, width-wise?
I believe they are. I don't see anything that's on the as-built that shows them to be different than that, in terms of width.
And I don't know how, and I'll form this in a question. I don't know how we can approve anything with respect to that, as long as it's on someone else's property at the moment.
Well, you're not going to prove anything without Mr. Dugan anyway, so.
Oh, okay. You had made mention about Building 8. I was out there this week and took a different route, and I came in and took a right around the cul-de-sac, and I noticed that the gable end of Unit 8 is cantilevered.
Right.
And the window, how do you access that window with that cantilever? And my second part of that question is that on the original as-built? Is that the plan that was approved, that overhang?
No, it was,
Because you kind of just skimmed over that part just now. I mean, that would have been nice to know on your part, telling us that was, rather than me ask you about it.
the original foundation was poured just like the rest of the other buildings.
Okay,
And then we were gonna put the handicap units in the same building near the end of the cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
We were told we couldn't do that. I'm sorry, we're told we couldn't, we had to split them up,
by who?
by the building department, I believe, and Carla Ferroni. They couldn't be both in the same building.
Okay.
So we had already put the deck on to make that building wider, to make those the two handicap units when we were told that. So we ended up putting one of the handicap units in Building 6, this unit here, and the other one is 8A. But we'd already made the foundation the size of the other building, so we cantilevered it to make the bathroom have the radius that was needed. It was all approved through the building department and through the administrative approval from the ZBA signed off on it. So it's not something that's just coming up now, it's something that was known at the time we did it.
So that was
question now-
administratively approved?
Right, the question now was, did we show it on the as-built?
Right.
The
Did
the
you?
answer is yes.
Okay. And I see that when I came through there, there was all Cavosa garbage cans out front. Is that gonna remain like that?
Well, they don't remain out front, they remain there until he picks them up, and then they pull them back behind the buildings again.
Then why reference the dumpster pad? If you're gonna use those, you're gonna put a dumpster there as
Because
well?
at the last meeting, you told us to.
So you're gonna have both? I'm just.
No, you haven't voted on whether or not we can not have the dumpsters.
So you would do away, if you had the dumpsters, if you got that vote, then you would do away with the other. There won't be both.
Right, one or the other.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Scott. James, anything?
Yeah, Mr. Marioni, with regards to the new proposed parking spots where the dumpster was going to be located, would you have any problem putting in curb stopping at the end of those spots? I just noticed you've got the play area now there. I just consider that kind of a safety issue.
I wouldn't have any problem with that.
With regards to the lighting that's facing Jamie Lane, have there been shields?
I'm sorry, I missed what you
Have
said.
there been shields over the lighting that's facing Jamie Lane to make sure that we're not blinding anybody, the abutters?
I think there was an email or a letter or a comment made after the last meeting that we satisfied the neighbors' concern about the lights. I'll let Noreen confirm that, but I believe there was conversation about that.
Yes?
So, yes, we did, sorry, yes, we did get confirmation that the lighting was shielded.
And can there be any additional landscaping at the entrance? I know that the bus stop now appears, I realize you have an issue with the fence, but I know that the buffering and landscape is always a concern about neighbors and abutters. Can there be additional landscaping at the entrance near the bus stop?
What are we buffering from at the bus stop?
Generally, it's through testimony and time again, usually abutters are concerned about vegetation around entrances and around the encumbrances, basically, of these projects. There's kind of nothing really there. I'm just asking if they can be done, or if you're telling me that it would affect sight or views or safety, that's fine, but
Well, it could be done, and I just think it would be, money on buffering and landscape would better be spent elsewhere. And we have a plan now each year to add a little more landscaping, to add other improvements to the buildings like storm doors and things like that we don't have now. So I think we'd rather spend the money on those.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, James. Scott, anything?
And I have one more, Tim, go ahead.
The money, the added money that you're saying you're gonna spend, are those improvements part of this package you're presenting tonight?
No. No, it's just standard product improvement plan. I think landlords typically maintain and upgrade their property every year with things to make it better.
Okay, so you wouldn't,
That's
so
not
that money
changing
wouldn't be
anything.
better spent improving some of the deficiencies that we've identified prior?
Well, we have those included here with the fencing and the curb stop and.
So
Thank
it's
you.
an unidentified amount of money going into an asset management plan.
I'm sorry, Jerry.
It's a unidentified amount of money that's going into an asset management plan. In other words, it's a slush fund the landlord will use to generally maintain things.
Yes,
The other thing is
maintain and improve.
maintain and improve. I think Bob had a question or concern that the town.
Please don't speak for Bob, Jerry.
Yeah,
He's
well-
gonna have a chance to do this.
No, but I'm not speaking for him, it's what I heard his concern about the shed was.
I'm
that-
sure he's entitled to ask his own questions,
And
and we've
I
made
am-
reservations
I
for him
am
to do that,
ask-
Jerry.
Please, am I allowed to talk?
Mr. Chairman?
I mean, you can ask, you can
It's-
ask your own question, but I mean.
I'm asking a
Bob-
question.
Bob will be able to participate
Uh,
at the next hearing.
There was a question raised that the town is offsetting some money for this project, right? You getting some town money?
Yes.
Does any of that money impact the ability to put a shed that you're gonna use for maintenance on the property?
No, not that I'm aware of. There's been nothing in any of the documents that said we couldn't put a shed on there. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, okay, I mean, you answered the question. It's a loan agreement for money, not necessarily anything else.
Correct.
You know, it doesn't say a lot of things. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Marioni, so through the as-built, you've identified the fence and the sidewalk as encroaching on the abutter's property. Has that abutter been notified of those encroachments?
We just found out the abutter doesn't live in the house. The abutter inherited the house this past summer. And we are trying to reach them for two reasons. One's not necessarily to inform them, but I guess as part of, to inform them, to ask them if they'd be interested in some sort of a land swap. If that doesn't work or we can't get it done fast enough, we're just gonna correct it, if we can't reach them soon enough.
So just so I'm clear, because your earlier testimony tonight said that the fence was either going to be rearranged or taken down, and the sidewalk was going to be pushed over as well. So now there's two options on the table, either
Either or.
this land swap deal with the abutter, or if that doesn't work, you'll move it yourself.
Right, if you go out there now, if you drove out there now, you would see we already marked where we have to cut the grass to move the sidewalk onto our property. The problem was, we didn't want to cut it and have nothing there, so they closed the asphalt plant, so all we could get is coal patch right now, which would just break up. So we could either put stone down there, talk to the neighbor, or wait till the spring. And those are just the options we're exploring, but we know we have to do something.
Not trying to give you a hard time over it, but at least in the area of the sidewalk, you mentioned that it's marked. Why, apparently it wasn't marked during the construction phase, so why wasn't that done?
I don't think I can answer that. I don't, not that I don't want to, I don't know the answer.
Right, you don't know the answer for it. Okay, fair enough. All right, that does it for me. Any other follow-up questions from the board? All right, we'll turn it to public comment. Does anyone out there have any question, comment, or concern regarding this project? All right, seeing none, so back to the board.
Chairman, I'd urge you to not close the meeting till we can have full participation.
So we continue?
I think we are looking at a continuance here. It's just a matter of what date we can squeeze them in. It's quite a full schedule with the new year. February 10th looks pretty full. February 24th, maybe? Mr. Marioni, are you available on the 24th of February?
I am.
All right.
Will we need a extension executed, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. And would you be amenable to executing an extension?
I'm sorry.
No worries, you're checking your calendar there. Would you be amenable to signing an extension since we have to go out?
Yeah,
to-
I may ask you, I'm just looking now, I'm having a shoulder replaced the day before, so I might not be in the best mood that night.
Oh,
So I'm wondering if we could do it the meeting after that?
March 10th?
Yes, please.
All right. Would anyone like to make that motion then?
So moved.
All right, so motion to continue to March 10th, made by Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott down on the corner. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Maroney, thank you for your time tonight. We will see you back here on March 10th.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No rails on the form.
Oh, okay. We already leave? All right, so that does it for our continuations. On to our new hearings. We have application 104-21, Foreman, trustee, 113 Bywater Court in Falmouth, requesting a special permit to allow expansion of the second floor deck.
So being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that application 104-21, Guy Foreman, trustee, P.O. Box 1232, Attleboro, Massachusetts, has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit to Section 24068D2, 24069E, and 243C of the Code of Falmouth to allow expansion of the second floor deck on subject property known as 113 Baywater Court, Falmouth, Massachusetts, being map 47, section 5, parcel 26, lot 0193. In the file, we have a letter from Inspectional Services, the town of Falmouth, addressed to Guy Foreman, trustee, Roger Foreman, trustee, P.O. Box 1232, Attleboro, regarding complaint of building without a permit at 113 Baywater Court, Falmouth, map parcel ID 470526019. Dear Foreman, trustee, this office has received a complaint regarding building without a permit on the above referenced subject property of which you are listed as owner. On July 15, 2021, I conducted research to the town geographic information system, and your dwelling unit appears to be in the flood zone. Your property could also be in a conservation area as well. I conducted a visual inspection on July 15, 2021, and the second-story deck requires a building permit. I reviewed the town of Falmouth's program for approved building permits, and the town of Falmouth does not have any building permits on file for the work completed. A building permit is required for any addition, change, alteration, interior or exterior of a dwelling. Please contact me within 10 days after receipt of this letter to discuss process to abate the violation. I'm available Monday through Friday. Be reached at Jonathan Dickinson, Falmouth, at falmouthmass.gov. Respectfully, Jonathan Dickinson, Assistant Zoning Compliance Agent. Letter of November 9th, 2021, to the town of Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. Attention, Noreen Stockman, Administrator, regarding 113 Baywater Court, Falmouth. Dear Ms. Stockman, I'm the sole trustee of Baywater Court Nominee Realty Trust and have authorized Amit Clower to act as my representative. There's a letter from Amit Clower addressed to the board. The application for special permit concerns recent expansion of a second floor deck at 113 Baywater Court. The work occurred earlier this year without proper permits being first obtained, and Amit Clower is representing the owner in the post-construction permitting. Special permit is required and should have been obtained earlier because, one, the lot coverage by structure before the deck expansion occurred was non-conforming at 20.3%, and two, the expanded deck is within 50 feet setback from Fresh River. Although the ZBA could approve the second floor deck as built, it will be made slightly smaller by less than 9 square feet, so it will extend no closer to Fresh River than the existing first floor deck to be approved by the Conservation Commission. Holmes and McGrath and I have met with conservation staff on the site. The commission's enforcement schedule for December 8th, 2021. Plans of the slightly reduced second floor deck approved with required mitigating planting were filed with the Concom on November 2nd, 2021. Letter goes on. Sir, on it described. Regard to referrals. Planning Board has no comment. Water Department has no comment. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. Assessors has no comment. Engineering, this application was reviewed for impacts to public right-of-ways and public utilities. Baywater Court is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the Engineering Division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right-of-ways. Email from December 7th of 2021 from Kevin Newton, Conservation Efforts. For your reference, the Conservation Commission has a hearing under an enforcement order for this property, which has been continued to 12/8/2021. And we have an enforcement order from the Falmouth Conservation Commission received by this office January 7th, 2022. Notice is hereby served that the Falmouth Conservation Commission has determined through investigation and credible evidence that the above-named property is violated and is presently in violation of the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 235 of the Code of Falmouth and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, by altering an area subject to protection under the law without authorization. The area subject to protection includes land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, the 100-foot resource area buffer, these resource areas, and within riverfront. A series of findings. Conclusion was the Conservation Commission has made conclusions of law based on the findings that the above work has occurred in the subject property that, 1, degrades and alters resource areas without filing a permit as required by FWR 10.02A, degrades and alters a resource area buffer to coastal bank as defined by FWR 10.30, a resource area pursuant to FWR 10.021I. 3, degrades and alters riverfront areas defined by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 13140. Conservation Commission hereby orders the following: the property owner, his or agents permitted, and all others shall immediately cease and desist from further activity of violating the bylaw. Immediate corrective action is required to protect the resource area values of the bylaw. 3, within 30 days after receipt of this enforcement order, the property owner shall remove unpermitted patio. 4, the unpermitted portion of the deck shall be removed no later than April 30th, 2022. 5, 460 square feet of native woody shrubs planted 3 to 4 feet on center shall be planted as mitigation as close to the resource area as possible. These plantings shall be installed no later than April 30th, 2022. Planting shall be in accordance with the prepared by Homes in McGrath, incorporated entitled Plan of Deck Reconstruction dated 10/31, Scrivener's error, 202, presume that's 2022. Signed by the Conservation Commission members. And we have a letter from Attorney Ahmet to the Zoning Board, requested Homes in McGrath has revised the site plan to show the deck dimensions. The new plan of deck reconstruction prepared Baywater Court Nominee Realty Trust, Lot 19, number 113, Baywater Court in Falmouth, dated December 14th, 2021. There's also lot comparisons that have been submitted, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, James. And for this application, I'll be appointing Scott as a voting member. That way, there's 5 of us. And Attorney Ahmet?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bob Ament. I'm an attorney in Falmouth. I represent the applicant, Guy Foreman, who the trustee of a family trust. The Foreman family has owned the subject property since 2005. And last year installed a second floor deck, actually expanded an existing deck, added about 140 square feet of second floor deck, not realizing that the zoning permit was necessary because of existing nonconformances of the house. The work was all done on above existing disturbed area and lawn, and they didn't realize apparently that the Conservation Commission also needed to issue a permit for the work. As soon as the applicant realized the error based on Mr. Dickinson's letter that you've read, he hired our firm, and we've been working with him and with Holmes and McGrath for quite a number of months to deal with all of the requirements. Both Mr. Dickinson and the conservation staff have been very cordial working, and they've appreciated that Mr. Foreman's intent has been to just meet all of their requirements, which is what we're doing. We have been before the Conservation Commission on December 8th, and the Commission did approve the plan which is referenced, which actually ends up resulting in a benefit to the property. But let me tell you a bit about the property. and then describe the special permit that needed. My cursor is on top of the property right here, and this is the current assessor's drawing. And you can see a deck in this area. This is a first floor deck. We know it's been there since at least 1991 because it shows on the town's aerial photographs from them. The house itself, part of it was built in 1950. It was all there at least by the 1991 photograph. This is the aerial photograph, and this actually is a more current rendering. You can see that the deck has been installed in this photo from last year. You can even see a couple of chaise lounges on top of that deck in use. So this is the property, and you can see that the house is comparable in its location in relation to the river, to other houses in the immediate neighborhood, and other houses, as you can easily see, have decks, some of which are second floor decks, that are actually in some cases closer to the water. So even before the addition to the second floor deck last year, the property was non-conforming. It was non-conforming with regard to lot coverage at 20.3% lot coverage, so slightly over the 20%. It was built before the requirement of lot coverage was reduced from 35% to 20%, with the provision for up to 25% by special permit. In addition, the structure, and I'm right here, this existing first floor deck that existed since before 1991, is located 31 feet from the river, actually from the 3-foot contour adjoining the river, and that's the required, that's a setback in our bylaws allowed to be as little as 30 feet. Normally it's 50 feet, but on a lot like this, which is relatively small, there are provisions in the zoning bylaw that allow it by special permit to be 30 feet. But this is a non-conforming structure because it's already was 31 feet. Non-conforming therefore as to setback from the river, non-conforming also as to the lot coverage. It's going to get you a picture of what was built. You can see the first floor deck, which, as I said, has existed for more than 30 years, and above it now is the second floor deck. There was decking in front of the sliders over here, but this portion of the deck, about 138 square feet, was installed with posts going down to the ground. And this is looking from the other direction. You can see the post is in the lawn. So that structure was constructed without the proper permits. Since we have a non-conforming structure, it can be extended by special permit under what the former zoning bylaw 240-3, as you know, upon a finding by the Board of Appeals that the extension is not substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconformance. And clearly it isn't substantially more detrimental if it doesn't come closer to the resource area, and if the board actually has the authority to approve a special permit for lot coverage up to 25%. This is the Holmes and McGrath survey of the property, and you see I've highlighted in yellow over here the second floor deck. A portion of it is on top of what already was existing. We enlarged that over here so you can see it a little bit better. You can see there's a triangular area here of what's been built, and we're going to remove that.
and remove it to comply with the conservation requirement that an extension of a property that's close to the resource area not extend any closer to the resource area. And since the deck as built came out to here, it went closer to the river, 29 feet from the river. We're going to pull it back and actually cut 9 square feet off of the deck as it was constructed last year. And that's what the Conservation Commission has approved, and that's what we're asking you to approve, so that the structure will be no closer to the resource area, no further into the setback area than the existing structure. So it's as really as simple of that as that. This extension and the addition of the second floor deck clearly is not substantially more detrimental. No adverse impact at all on views from public ways or other properties. No effect on nitrogen loading because this property's on the sewer and we're not adding any bedrooms. Doesn't increase the height of the structure. This is a 1.5-story structure, and it's a very average house for the neighborhood. We provided information about size of the structure and the height of the structure, and it's just average, but all we're doing is putting on a small second floor deck. I go into that detail because although this case was filed under section 240-3 because it's non-conforming, and we're just extending an existing non-conformance, even if it wasn't non-conforming, the board could have granted a special permit to do this because, again, we were only going to end up with 21.2% lot coverage. You can approve up to 25% even if we weren't already non-conforming. And you can approve the setback as low as 30 feet, and we're going to just stick at 31 feet, which is what it was in order to comply with the Conservation Commission. As the conservation order says, we're going to be putting in 460 square feet of appropriate plantings along the water. We're going to be removing lawn. We remove that much lawn, take existing plantings, which are more ornamentals, along the water. We're going to put those where the lawn is. We're going to put the better plantings along the water, and so this environmentally it turns out to be an improvement. So having this second floor deck is certainly consistent with the purposes of the zoning bylaw of residential use. The site is adequate because we're only going to be at 21%, 0.2% lot coverage, no impact on traffic, no impact on utilities or sewage or so on, no impact, of course, on affordable housing for the nature of this. So without going into more detail on what is, I would think, be an awful simple decision for the board to make, I'll leave it at that and ask if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Ahmet. On to board questions. Scott, any questions?
Could you go into a little bit more the plantings from the Conservation Commission? You said there's going to be 460 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. It's 460 square feet. It's actually shown on the plan that's before you.
Yeah.
So this hatched area in here will all be new plantings that comply with the Conservation Commission's list of approved plantings for mitigation. And in this area, lawn will be removed, and the existing bushes, which are along the water, are going to be moved into that area.
Very good. Thank you.
Scott, James?
This time, no.
Attorney Ahmet, this may be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
On any.
Was there any other consideration of just setting the poles back a foot and then putting a 45, or does that?
One would think they're, first of all, it wasn't built with meeting the legal requirements, and that might have been a nice solution, except that the Conservation Commission, as well as the town, measures lot coverage, even if below a deck, below a cantilevered portion of a house, even if it's possible for things to grow underneath it. It, of course, seems like a wasted effort to end up moving that post, what will be just a couple of feet, in an area that already was lawn. It wasn't as if any bushes were native plants were removed in connection with this. Nonetheless, a mistake was made. We have regulations which are pretty
I just didn't know
clear.
during your negotiations with Concom if that ever came up, because it looked like it would have simplified the solution.
I don't think we were, we would not have
Prevailed?
won that argument, and I'm not casting any.
I understand. Thank you for your
And it wasn't,
explanation. Thank
and
you,
it
Mr.
wasn't a
Chairman.
dumb question.
Thank you.
It's a good question.
No question.
Jerry, nothing? All right, and my concern was already addressed. Members of the public have any question, comment, or concern regarding this project? Not seeing any. Back to the board. Any follow-up questions, or is there a motion?
Motion to close the hearing.
I second Mr. Morris's motion.
Motion to close made by James and second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. And as for a motion going forward, anyone?
Motion to approve with conditions.
Again, I'll second Mr. Morris's motion.
Thank you, James. Thank you,
Approve with
Scott.
conditions.
On to findings.
240-68D2, 240-69E, 243C, not more detrimental.
Satisfied Concom's
First one,
requirements.
Yep.
Proposed plantings in the 460 square feet of additional plantings per Concom's request. It was stated that the construction took place in error. I think that should be noted in the findings. And they did everything they were supposed to do to correct it.
Complied with an enforcement order. Yep. Testimony, properties on sewer. Project will not increase bedroom. Lot comparisons were submitted. Home is in keeping with the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Lot coverage is increasing approximately 0.9% from 20.3 to 21.2. Testimony that the existing deck was present in 1991. Applicant seeks special permit for a second floor deck.
It is in the flood zone,
It is, thank you.
and it was, the wetlands bylaw was what drove the complaint.
And we have the 9 square foot removal, yeah.
All right, anything else for findings? Conditions?
Whatever the requirements for, by the Concom, whatever agreement was made with them, that those are abided by.
Sure. For plans
Yep.
following.
No further building
Concom.
or additions without prior town approval. It's already built, so there's no minor adjustments to it, right?
True.
You want an as-built when that change is made?
Does Concom want an as-built too, though?
I don't know.
There's no requirement for
Probably
it.
would be prudent.
Let's get an as-built.
Got it.
All right. Anything else for either findings or conditions?
No, sir, not from me.
All right.
Standard engineering comments. Breaking stormwater runoff with the deck, but
Yep.
they've asked for them.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, so that was a motion approved with conditions made by James, second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes
Thank you very
unanimously.
much.
Thank you for your time, Attorney Clower. I'm sorry, Attorney Almond?
What?
Almond Clower. Attorney Almond, Attorney Clower. All right, up next, we have application 105-21 Weber, 47 Rockville Ave in East Falmouth, requesting a special permit to allow a home occupation electrician.
So being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that application 105-21 William J. and Gina C. Weber, 47 Rockville Avenue, East Falmouth, Mass., have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-162 of the Code of Falmouth to allow home occupation, electrician, on the subject property known as 47 Rockville Avenue, East Falmouth, Mass., being map 27, section 6, partial 028, lots 012. In the file, Mr. Chairman, we have a letter from the Inspectional Services from the town of Falmouth addressed to Mr. William Weber and Gina Weber of 47 Rockville Avenue regarding violations on subject property, home occupation, map ID parcel 2706028-012. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Weber, this office has received a complaint regarding operation of home occupation on the above referenced subject property of which you are listed as owner. Following research include pictures, the Zoning Board of Appeals permit and review of your company location. I reviewed the Town of Falmouth's building permit program. The Town of Falmouth does not have a use and occupancy approved for your home occupation. As the above referenced property is non-conforming in regards to the lot area, a home occupation would require a special permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please contact me within 10 days of receipt of this letter to discuss the abatement of this violation. I'm available Monday through Friday. A failure to comply with this notice may incur fees and possible legal action. Signed, Jonathan Dickinson, Assistant Zoning Compliance Agent, Town of Falmouth. For referrals, Planning Board has no comment. Planning, excuse me, Department. Water Department, no comment. Fire Department has no issues with the project. Assessors have no comment. Engineering, Rockville Avenue is a private way in this area. It has no comment. Concom, project appears to be located outside of conservation jurisdiction. Correspondence to the ZBA. Good afternoon, Ashley and ZBA members. In preparation for tomorrow night's ZBA meeting, we are forwarding information that we feel is relevant to our request and the complaints made against us by Mr. Andrew C. Johnson of 39 Rock Ave, East Falmouth. Attached, please find a map indicating our abutting neighbors. Petition in support of our request for a permit to run a home-based business. Letter from our neighbor directly behind us in support of our storage trailer being kept on our property. Petition in support of our keeping of a storage trailer. Petition in support of our special permit for our company vehicle, approved 5/6/21. Letter from our neighbor directly behind us describing the hazing alarms that Mr. Johnson of 39 Rockville Ave began setting off just after our special permit was granted for our company vehicle. Affidavit signed by 5 abutting neighbors who bear witness to Mr. Johnson's hazing alarms. Video from our driveway of 2 separate alarms that Mr. Johnson is using. There's a picture. There is correspondence to whom it may concern. This letter is in reference to the Town of Falmouth Board of Appeals Notice of Public Hearing Application 105-21 for William and Gina Weber, 47 Rockville Avenue, East Falmouth. We have been backyard neighbors of the Webers since we moved into our house in 2012. In that time, the division between our properties has been the Weber's fence, which is 6 feet tall and surrounds our entire backyard. The entire 9 years we've lived in the house, the Webers have had a trailer parked to the side of their yard. This has never bothered us or presented an issue. The trailer is essential to the business that Bill Weber runs. It is a simple black trailer with only a couple feet visible over the fence. It is well maintained and to us, not an eyesore. To my knowledge, there has never been a complaint before now in those 9 years. With all abutting neighbors being in residence during that time, there has been no change in the Weber's use of the storage of the trailer in that time. Thank you, Aaron Fishel, Ph.D., 21 Candace Way, East Falmouth, Mass. To whom it may concern, starting around 10/9/21, our family at 21 Candace Way, East Falmouth, began to hear a strange, high-pitched, high-volume noise at various points of the day. My husband sometimes works from home and heard it often. I observed it as well on 10/11 and multiple times thereafter, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. Initially, we thought it was a bad bearing or similar in someone's equipment, but as it recurred at the same frequency and high intensity, we quickly began to question the assumption and determined it was likely some kind of hazing alarm from one of the houses back of our house. Investigating it appeared to come from the direction of the left corner of our backyard, shown below as red arrow in the below figure. Why such an alarm would be going off at all hours of the day, we had no idea. The sound was loud enough that whenever the sound occurred, we had to close all the doors and windows. One of our children is autistic, the other has a diagnosed sensory processing disorder. Both have sensitivities to sound, particularly high-pitched sound. At least twice, they came running inside in response to the sound, and our autistic daughter required noise-canceling headphones, since I had to calm her down on one occasion when the noise was present. On 2 occasions, it made it difficult to get children in the car, for as soon as they heard the noise on leaving the house, they reacted and needed to go back inside. Our most recent observation was the sound of the week of October 24th, but we don't know when the alarm stopped going off. We need to have confidence this will not occur in any form, and that there will be no retaliation or harassment of our family in the future as a result of this letter. Signed, Aaron Fischel, PhD, 21 Candidates Way. There are petitions in support of William J. Weber and Gina C. Weber to allow a special permit to run a home-based business at their property at 47 Rockville Ave, East Falmouth. There are 17 signatures. Petition in support of William J. Weber and Gina C. Weber allowing to keep their storage trailer on their property located at 47 Rockville Ave, East Falmouth, with 10 signatures. We, the undersigned, have heard a very loud, high-pitched and/or siren-like sounds emanating from the vicinity of 39 Rockville Avenue on one or more occasions, 5 signatures. And petition in support of William J. and Gina C. Weber to allow a special permit to park a vehicle over 13,000 gross vehicle weight in their property at 47 Rockville Avenue, 18 signatures. Petition in support of William G. Weber and Gina C. Weber to allow a special permit to run a home-based business at their property, 47 Rockville Avenue, 16 signatures. Petition in support of William J. and Gina C. Weber to allow a special permit to park a vehicle over 13,000 gross vehicle weight on their property at 47 Rockville Avenue, 16 signatures. And a copy of the previous special permit issued by this board in case number 023-21, William J. and Gina C. Weber, which was granted with special conditions.
All right. Thank you for all that, James. And before we get underway, I'll be appointing Scott as a voting member. That way, Mr. and Mrs. Weber, you have all 5 of us for a potential vote. And why don't you go right ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Gina Weber. This is my husband, Bill William Weber. We have come to you today to request a special permit for our home-based business. We own a company, we do electrical contracting in town. Our business started in July, I believe, of 2001. In 2004, we purchased our home and moved to the town of Falmouth so we could raise our family here. We are active members in the community. We have excellent relationships with all but one of our neighbors. We are in excellent standing with our neighborhood association. We are just trying to make sure that we're doing the right things, and, you know, there was a neighbor who complained, so we felt like we needed to include the entire history of where the complaints might be coming from.
All right. Anything else?
That's pretty much it. Since we were granted the permit for the vehicle, neighbor has been on a harassment rant.
Against
And
us.
You've seen the paperwork, and there's been other things, and just needs to.
Okay. Fair enough to turn over to board questions now? All right. Jerry, anything?
How many people will be employed here? Just one person. That's, I'm satisfied.
All right, Scott?
Yeah, how different would this be if this was approved tonight than what you were approved for before? I'm still stymied by why you didn't ask for it the last time, being that there's a sole proprietor, one vehicle and one storage vehicle that there was no opposition to. So am I to understand the only thing that's changed is when this, the prior special permit, the existing, that's when harassment started and that's what's driving you back to the board? Okay, that's all I have, sir. I mean, I have one more. Have the police been involved with any?
Yes.
So that's not in our records?
No, the police have been called on several occasions.
Yeah, well, that's just a yes or no for me.
Oh, I'm sorry,
All right,
yes.
so they're aware of it?
They are aware,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. James?
So I remember the previous hearing, but this is a new one, so I just want to make sure the record is clear. You currently have a special permit for a large vehicle, used to be an ambulance, that's correct? You have one storage trailer?
Yes,
Is your plan to store any type of tools or wire or anything and then on your property if this is granted?
There are some wire, devices, things that I use for electrical. We don't have a garage. I also have gardening tools in there and things you typically have in a garage.
I don't have any other questions.
All right, thank you, James. Scott?
You, obviously, it looks great that you have a lot of the abutters that are supporting you. And when I drove by your property, there was, I think, like 3 vehicles, a truck and 2 other cars, or a Jeep and a car and another. But you said those aren't employees, those are all your own vehicles, and they're parked pretty much on the lot line, is that correct?
Pickup's mine, the car is my daughter's, and the other Jeep is my son's.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Scott. I'm just looking over the bylaw, and I just want to get all our ducks in a row, make sure we check all the boxes here. So there's no change in outside appearance to your house. No equipment or process being used that creates any noise, vibration, flare, fumes, odors, or electrical interferences. All right, no more traffic generated than what's normal for your house?
No.
Perfect. See, all right, no person other than family residents may be regularly employed on the premises in connection with such home occupations. You already told me that you're the sole employee. No worries there. There was a section about outside storage, isn't there? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure, go right ahead.
I just have some more.
on the next page.
Is that trailer registered?
It was, I believe I took it off the road just last year or the year before that, because I don't tow it.
And my other question, is there any other home-based businesses in your surrounding areas close to you?
I don't
In the
know
neighbors?
names, but
Yeah, any of the
it's a
neighbors?
working-class
Yes.
neighborhood.
yes. I believe the complainant has a business
Yeah.
out of his home as well.
A home-based business?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. And just turning back to the bylaws here.
Yes,
Company vehicles kept on the driveway?
yes.
Right. And I'm looking over the exterior storage, and I'm sorry, can you just clarify that there's a trailer that you keep things in?
Correct.
Yeah.
Necessary for the business? Hours of operation, do you go out on an emergency call at all?
I do go on emergency calls, yes.
All right. Says that normal hours should be limited from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, but there is testimony that you do go out on emergency calls, so that's fine. Is there any running of or servicing of any motorized equipment?
No.
All right, I think that does it for me. Any other follow-up questions from the board?
Still only one commercial vehicle?
Yes,
Correct.
All right. Members of the public, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project. Ma'am? All right. Yeah, if you guys could step aside and she could come up and address the board.
I'm Judy Genge. We live at 60 Rockville Ave, sort of diagonal across the street neighbors for the Webbers. And I just want to support whatever it is that Bill and Gina need to keep his business going. They are the best neighbors and the best community members. They contribute to the community, they contribute to the neighborhood. They don't deserve the treatment that they've had from this one neighbor. I think Falmouth is a wonderful place to live and a caring community. I hope something can be done so that Bill and Gina can enjoy their lives in peace and quiet.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else? No?
I feel like I'm in school. I raised my hand. I didn't plan on saying anything, but my name is Barbara Rothwell, 27 Candace Way, and my backyard and the Webbers were kind of right there. And I just want to say, like, they are awesome. They're fantastic, and I do support. I was one of the signatures, and I don't hear a peep when they go out. I'm out at all hours with my dog. I have an elderly dog that has to go out, and I never hear any noise. I can see a little bit of the truck, not a big deal, and I support 100% what they're doing, and I just want the Webbers to be able to have and continue his business and make a living, you know, because they're the pillars of the community as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Back to the board. Any other follow-up questions
Can
or
we have a little
anything?
bit of discussion prior to this?
Sure.
To the closure?
Go ahead, Scott.
You know, I'm of the opinion that, I mean, there's a lot of people working from home now. And in the land of COVID, in the time of COVID, you've got people out there actively wanting to work and provide a service to the community. And I don't see where this is much different than his previous. There's not many changes to this permit. It almost could have been amended to it, but for the statute. So I would be in full agreement, and with all the supporting documentation from the neighbors. I mean, you're always going to get somebody that doesn't like what you're doing. So I would be in full support of this.
Thank you, Scott. And just to add to that, I do remember the last application pretty clearly. It was easily approvable by this board, and I'd be in favor of this special permit as well.
I'm in favor. I'm guessing the only reason they're here is because there was an enforcement letter that said you need to.
Oh, absolutely.
So they've done the right thing and they're here. So
And it would have been different if they now had 3 vehicles and 10 employees and all of that.
I'm also guessing that the last one, if they'd requested, we wouldn't have had a second hearing. They could have just resolved that evening.
Exactly.
Mhm. Anyone else?
Concur with.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, motion to close made by James and second by Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. And how would the board like to proceed?
Motion to approve with conditions.
Thank you, James.
I'll second it.
I heard that from Scott
Did you
first. Scott
say-
down on the corner first. We'll give it to,
Absolutely, Scott.
give it to Scott down on the
Quiet
corner for a
talker.
second.
Sorry,
The mask
Scott.
echo.
All right, findings.
240-162. Applicant is requesting a special permit for home occupation. He's an electrician. Was previously before the board requesting special permit due to a oversized vehicle, which was granted. Received an enforcement letter directing him to request the special permit, which he's complying with. Testimony, there will be no change to the outside appearance of the house, no increase in traffic.
18 letters of support, 1 letter in opposition.
2 people spoke in support at the hearing.
Operationally, there's no change to it.
No.
For the previous permit.
Testimony that there will be no service of motorized equipment, 1 commercial vehicle. Do we want to put 7A to 7P or emergency? Or do you just leave it be?
If you're going to do that, there has to be a caveat that identifies the fact that it's an emergency service. When people's power is out of
Yeah,
the
and
furnace.
I don't want to hem him in. I just didn't know what the board's feeling on
No,
that.
I'm good with the way it is. I mean,
It's
who
covered
wants
under
to
the.
get up at 2 o'clock in the morning? I mean.
I want my electricity fixed,
I'll be
or
at
if I
your
have
house
a
at
broken
2
pipe,
for
I
an
want a plumber to
appointment.
show
I don't
up.
think that's going to happen.
It's covered under D1 in the bylaws,
Okay.
so, yep.
1 commercial vehicle, 1 trailer. I think that's, yeah, I think I've got.
I don't have anything else.
And yeah, numerous petitions in support.
And did testimony have it about the trailer? It wasn't registered, it's just used for storage purposes?
Yes.
All right. Add that. conditions?
As per described in the decision.
All right, anything else, either for findings or conditions?
While the zoning board is aware of some kind of audible opposition to the special permit and retaliatory, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, outside our
It's
purview.
it's outside of our purview. I mean, while we
That
heard
should
it
be
in testimony,
That
it's
should be
up.
in the findings, right?
Right, but, I mean, because it was testimony.
Yeah, I agree.
It should be in the findings.
Noise not from the applicant.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, we
Let's
heard
make sure
it,
that's
so it's
clear.
gotta be in the findings. We can't, we have no enforcement power over that.
Exactly. All right, so that's a good one to end it on. Anything else? All right, so that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Scott. I'm sorry, made by James and then second by Scott Peterson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Mr. and Mrs. Weber, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can we take 5 minutes?
I think it's about a good time for that. All right, we'll be taking a 5-minute break. All right, we are back from our break. Up next is application 106-21, Curly Trustee, 280 Sandwich Road in Hatchville, requesting a special permit to construct a detached accessory structure exceeding 900 square feet in size.
So being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that application number 106-21, William F. Curley III, trustee, 365 Boston Post Road, Sudbury, Mass., has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit to Sections 24038G1B of the Code of Falmouth to construct a detached accessory structure exceeding 900 square feet in size on the subject property known as 280 Sandwich Road, Hatchville, Massachusetts, being map 27, section 4, parcel 006, lot 001. In the file for referrals, planning, no comment. Assessors, request for inspection prior to occupancy. Water Department has no comment. Engineering, I believe this is engineering. Applicant was reviewed for impact to public right-of-ways and public utilities. Sandwich Road is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, a dry well is proposed for the new roof area as is typically recommended. 5, we have a driveway permit on file for this project already, and the new proposed work would have no impact on that permit. No further action is required regarding the driveway permit. Concom, the proposed project appears to be located outside of Concom jurisdiction. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, James. And I'll be appointing Scott as a voting member on this project, so there's all 5 of us. And for the applicant tonight.
Good evening, members of the board. Respectfully, I just wanted to let you know that I have a medical condition and have to be wearing a mask.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Do I? There.
Mr. Mello will be happy to help you.
Thank you, Ashley. I didn't even see. No, it's all right. All right, awesome. So, again, good evening. My name is Brian Bork. I'm here representing Mr. Curley. Mr. Curley is currently constructing a single-family ranch-style home on the property. Pull up the site plan if I can. Yeah. On 280 Sandwich Road. And we're requesting a special permit for an accessory structure for the purpose of storing his personal boat off-season. The lot's over 1 acre, and due to the layout of the road, the front lot line set back considerably from the paved road. Proposed accessory structure, as you can see, is tucked in the back corner of the lot and running the long way, so from the front, you can't even see from the street. It appears to be a normal-sized building. It doesn't appear to be accessory-sized. It's well over 200 feet from Sandwich Road, and there's a natural wooded area in the front between the street layout. I don't know if you guys have been there, but a weird little thing that kind of protects it and gives it some privacy. Lot coverages aren't an issue. It'll be 8% with both structures, and impervious will be 17.32. So we're not even close. Everything obviously meets setback requirements. The garage space is 1,408 square feet. And how do I get out here? And as you look at the plan, you can see that's really minimal size to fit the boat in there and have some space to move around. It's not bigger or for any other purpose than storage of the boat. So therefore, under 240-38G1B, we're requesting a special permit to construct this detached accessory structure over 900 square feet. The closest neighbor is Sharon Smith. Yeah, Sharon Smith. which would be that house to the left of the house under construction. And as you can see, it's wooded. There's no neighbors or abutters around there. Has written a letter. And I have hard copies if you'd like, in approval of the project. And again, she's the closest and really only neighbor to me. So if you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bork. Barry, any questions?
No question.
Scott?
Brian, the only reason for it being here in front of us is because it's in the front yard, right?
No, it's in the backyard. The only reason is because it's over 900 square feet.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
James.
You have a hard copy of the letter?
I do. I have actually, should have two.
Get that into the
Bring
file.
these up.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
You can use that stamp at least once tonight, right, James?
Hey, you know, getting the full experience of being the awesome power of the clerk.
Baptism by fire.
Anything else for you, James?
Is there going to be heat or water out in this garage?
No, it's
Okay.
just electrical. Again, just for storage of the boat.
Scott?
No, I drove by the project. It seems to be a good fit. There's ample, space, obviously, with having over an acre of land there, so good utilization.
All right.
It does have that natural buffer too in between that you can't even see the other house going in.
Yeah, really unique. I've never seen that quite like that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it does give it a great.
What kind of boat does he have?
39
Yeah. Looks fast. 3 engines? Awesome. All right, that does it for me. Any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the public? Back to the board.
Motion to close.
All right, thank you, James, and thank you, Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. And as for the motion,
Make a motion to approve with conditions.
all right, thank you, James, and thank you, Scott. Findings?
24038 G1. Applicant seeks to construct a detached garage over 900 square feet. Subject locus is in an agricultural district. Lot size is very suitable, consisting of over 45,000 square feet, 1.4 acres. Lot coverage is currently at 5.11%, going to 8%, well below. Doesn't require special permit as to size. Applicant's testimony is the garage will be 1,408 square feet, hence to store a boat. We no heat or water. One letter was received in support of the project, no opposition, testimony or otherwise at the hearing.
All right. Anything else for findings? Conditions?
Per plans, assessors request inspection prior to occupancy. Standard engineering conditions, not to be used as habitable space. That's all I have.
That just about does it. All right, so that was a motion to approve with conditions made by James and seconded by Scott Peterson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you for your time.
Mr.
Have a
Bork.
great evening.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, up next, we have application 7-21, Guidi, 230 Ecapesket Road in East Falmouth, requesting a special permit to demolish the existing detached garage and shed and construct a 3-car detached garage with habitable space above with attached cabana exceeding 900 square feet and an in-ground pool, all located within the front yard, more than 50 feet from the property line.
So being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that application number 107-21, Jill M. and Richard J. Guidi, 230 Acapesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass., have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-68A8 and 240-23G1B of the Code of Falmouth to demolish the existing detached garage and shed and construct a three-car detached garage with habitable space above with attached cabana exceeding 900 square feet and an in-ground pool, all located within the front yard more than 50 feet from the property line. The subject property is 230 Acapesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass., being map 40, section 4, parcel 005, lots 245. In the file, we have for referrals. Planning, no comment. Water Department. Water main and service must be shown on the plans. The existing home service is fed from a 12-inch main on Acapesket Road. The new habitable space will need separate service fed from the 12-inch main as well. The separate meter will have to be installed inside of the new building and not in a pit. Falmouth DPW Water Division standards will apply, specifically separation distances. From assessors, no comment. From Health Department, proposed 723 gallons per day septic system will be suitable for the project. From engineering, one, this application was reviewed for impacts to public right-of-ways and public utilities. Acapesket Road is a public right-of-way in this area. The proposed driveway and abandonment of the existing driveway will require filing a permit with the engineering division. We request that the board either require the applicant to obtain an approved driveway permit from the engineering division prior to closing the hearing for this special permit, or that the board include the following condition if the special permit is approved. Quote, the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in the driveway permit. There appears to be enough information on this plan to approve a permit with some added notation. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, project must not direct any stormwater runoff to a public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, dry wells are included in the design for the proposed roof as typically recommended. 5, for the relocation of the driveway and how far the house sets back from the roadway, we recommend the following condition be included or similar in any approval. Quote, upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for the residence per section 99-1, a fixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. And quote, a sign indicating 230 should be posted at the end of the driveway along Acapesket Road. 6, adequate erosion and sediment controls and the limit of work are shown on the plan to protect the town right-of-way and abutting property. We recommend the following condition be included in any approval. Quote, construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions document, which can be found on the engineering division's page of the town's website. Where a driveway permit is required, the engineering division can oversee compliance with these standards as part of the permit. From Conservation, Conservation Commission held a hearing under a notice of intent, which was closed on December 1st, 2021. An order of conditions was voted upon. No, actually, it does not issue, but it is actually part of the file. And we have the order of conditions from the DEP to the Concom. In the file, there is a former previous special permit, appeal number 22-00. Applicant was Joseph Tenka of East Falmouth, location property 230 Acapesket Road. Under a date of December 10th, 1999, Joseph Tenka of East Falmouth applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit under section 240-68AA of the Code of Falmouth to allow an attached 22 by 22 garage. It was approved with conditions. I think that's it.
All right, thank you, James. And for the applicant.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Greg Jones, architect for Jill and Richard Guidi, owners of 230 Acapesket. As mentioned, we're here asking for a special permit to build a garage, cabana, and pool in the front yard. I've got the existing site plan up now. The garage that exists, that you just referenced for the previous special permit, is up here. We intend to take that down and remove it. It obviously sits in the front yard, as well as the one we're proposing. This is a drawing prepared by Falmouth Engineering, showing the project, 3-car garage, cabana, and pool. Also a new septic system. All in the front yard. We do meet all of the setback requirements. We're 50-plus feet from the front. We meet the side and rear yard setbacks. We are also below the 18-foot maximum height allowable for an accessory structure. I'll show the architectural drawings in a moment. We have been to Concom. They've issued their order of conditions. Like a lot of these lots on this side of Acapesset, they're long, narrow lots that lead down to the water. A large number of these homes are located near the water, and a good many of the properties along Acapesset, and I've highlighted some of them. This one here, where my cursor is now, is 230 Acapesset. The other ones that I have some blotted highlight show other properties along Acapesset that have their garages in the front yard. Obviously, on the waterfront, folks put their houses close to the water, long, narrow lot, doesn't leave a lot of room for the garage. So what we're proposing is not a whole lot different than what a lot of other homes along Acapesset have done. The garage and cabana itself have a 1,350 square foot footprint, which is one of the reasons we're here this evening. On the site plan, you'll note that the structure, as proposed, gets us to a lot coverage amount of 15.7%, where 20% is allowed. So we're well below the maximum allowable. And as far as pavement and structures and parking area, we're at 30.1% as proposed, where 40% is allowable. The Guidis purchased the property, I want to say around 2011. They built the home that's on the property back around 2014. I was the architect for that as well. And the intent, let me actually show the elevations first. The intent of the design is to blend with the existing house that was built 6 or 7 years ago. So you can see the 3 garage door bays, the side of the cabana. This is the elevation facing the pool area. This is the back side facing the abutting neighbor, and this is the side that faces the main house. Another quick look at floor plan. You'll see the cabana facing the pool area, which will be fenced, and then the 3-car garage, a set of stairs, a bathroom, and then above, the homeowner wanted a little additional recreation space, so we added a full dormer across the back of the structure, so they could have some space up there for a pool table and for the kids to hang out. So that's the project in a nutshell. I don't think it's detrimental to the neighborhood. I believe it blends in, and as I said before, there's a number of properties that have a similar setup along Acapesset. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, thank you. Turning to board questions. Jerry, anything?
There's no bedrooms proposed on the...
No bedrooms, but when we put this together, we talked to the Board of Health. They count that room above the garage as a potential bedroom, so we've designed the septic system to satisfy
Equipment.
just for future owners that might decide to make it a bedroom. But as it's designed now, it's an open space to the stairs that go down to the first floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Scott?
Yeah, you would agree that this new plan satisfies a lot of the safety concerns with that driveway, too. I couldn't even get turned around in there.
Yeah,
and I thought
been a
this
tough
kinda
driveway.
Solves a few problems with
Yes.
getting out on Acapesket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Scott.
sir.
James?
I have a question.
No question.
And we have no issues with any of the conditions engineering's put on, and we'll submit a driveway plan for their satisfaction.
And they're under an order.
Mm-hmm. Is the shower proposed in the bathroom completely necessary since you have a rinse station off of the pool?
I think it's a nice to have. I think if it was gonna kill the project, they'd certainly be willing to give it up.
And my only concern is, since we have the accessory apartment bylaw, I understand that you're not applying under that, but, you know, anything over 900 feet, this board tends to have some reservations about something of that size, especially with the privacy and what's being proposed on the second floor. I know you said it's recreation, but any property owners in the future may convert that to a bedroom or a accessory apartment, something of the like. But if no one has really any concerns about that, then
Well, they did, through testimony, mention that there were thoughts about it in the future, otherwise they wouldn't have designed it.
right.
The septic system for the eventuality that could happen. So
Mhm.
there's gonna be some language somewhere in that.
Mm-hmm. Just throwing that
Right.
out there for now. All right.
Not as concerned, only Board of Health has said septic adequate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if that does it for board questions, members of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this project? Seeing none, back to the board.
Yeah, motion to close.
Second.
All right, thank you, Scott. Motion made by Scott and second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
Chair, I will make a motion to approve with conditions.
Chairman, I'll second Mr. Morse's motion
Thank
to
you,
approve with
James.
conditions.
Thank you, Scott. Moving on to findings.
24068 AA, 24023 G1. Applicant seeking a special permit to demolish an existing garage and shed. Construct a three-car garage with habitable space above it with a detached cabana exceeding 900 square feet and install an in-ground pool, all in front yard, more than 50 feet from property lines.
Upgraded septic. Vastly improves safety measures when approaching and egressing off of Acapesket Road. Working under an order of conditions. There's Concom approval.
Project is still below maximum allowable lot coverages. Board of Health has determined the proposed septic is adequate.
You get well under lot coverage, right?
I did,
Just-
yes.
Mm-hmm.
You did.
No opposition in the file, no opposition at the hearing.
Definitely in keeping with
Other
surrounding properties,
properties have similar.
given the proximity of the water to shoreline.
Do we want to include anything that, due to the size, the septic tank has been oversized, but, I mean, how are we going to handle that in conditions? Can be no sleeping waters.
We didn't say that there couldn't be.
I think you could say maybe no kitchen.
Right, no cooking facilities.
Okay, all right, I didn't know what
That
TJ
gives
was
them their
getting to.
shower inside or their half bath inside.
But there's no cooking facilities. Well, you could still sleep up there.
Not proposed.
Wants
wanna
to get
put a
up at
finding in
8
at the,
o'clock in the morning, go downstairs and take a shower outside.
I agree.
Not me.
Responding to TJ's,
We want to find if the property is located abutting Green Pond, and that there is, pursuant to the Concom's order of conditions, there'll be some additional shrubs and trees replaced.
Do you have any sightline issues from engineering? Is there any comment on that, or they have no comment?
On sightline,
Yeah.
there was no comment regarding, just that the
All right, then I'm
need to
good.
approve an approved driveway permit is all.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Anything else for findings? Conditions?
Okay.
For plans, per order of conditions from Concom,
Engineering referral?
per all engineering referrals, specifically 991, fixing legible numbers is required. Applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit, post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. Applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division and the driveway permit. Construction to follow town soil erosion settlement control standards.
They'll be able to keep all their equipment on. If they do those two demos prior, they'll have plenty of room for.
Did we note the water reference?
The water department,
Water referral?
the referral wanted, but according to the plans, there's a, I thought it was a 2-inch main coming in.
Water to that
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
So that's gotta be in the findings and conditions, right?
Existing house has a 12-inch main.
2-inch main.
I'm sorry, 2-inch. Yeah,
12-inch
12.
main.
There'd be some
That
water
would be
pressure.
some water
Some
pressure.
water pressure from the, that'd be
Town
all
wouldn't
right.
have any water pressure.
Have the new fire station.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
Yeah.
They still need to get
2-inch
a
main.
water permit.
Fill the
so-
pool up quick.
Separate meter is gonna be installed in the new building, and there was something about Falmouth DPW, the water division standards applying regarding separation distances.
Yeah, water main and service must be shown on plans. Existing home service fed from the 12-inch main in Acapesket. New habitable space will need a separate service fed from the 12-inch main. Separate
Does
water.
that cross the driveway, Jerry?
What's that?
Do you have the plan in front of you? Does this water service for the new structure?
I'm looking at the site plan now. I don't see the water service shown on it. I'm missing it.
Right, it'd have to be added to that plan and have to be sleeved if it was under the, under the driveway. Yeah,
That's gonna be covered, I believe, under.
Oh, yeah, so it's not in the driveway. No, we're good.
It's off the
You
side.
got it on the back side,
Is it? Okay,
on this side.
okay, thank you. I can't,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
yeah, no, I think, oh, actually, I see it now. Yes,
No,
yes.
it's on that one, though.
We're going by plan date, May 21st, 2021, just to,
That's right.
all right. All right,
Contractor's gonna remove existing patio and cobble edging.
It's a beautiful plan.
It is.
anything else for either findings or conditions? So that was a motion to approve made by, with conditions made by James and second by Scott Zelinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Look,
Thank you very much, folks. Thanks
you.
for spending the evening.
All right, so that does it for our new hearings. On to our open meeting items. Up first, we have voting the minutes for November 18th, 2021, December 2nd, 2021, and December 16th, 2021.
The December 16th, we're not voting on.
And we're tabling the 16th.
Did we get the December 2nd one? I might have missed it.
Yes.
Okay,
The
if it-
November 18 went out on January 1st, and December 2 went out on January 9th.
If everybody else got it, I must have just missed it.
Can resend.
All right.
Well, we're approving it anyway, so.
We'll see if we do. November 18th, anyone want to make a motion for that one?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 18th, 2021.
a second.
All right, motion made by James, second by Scott Zelinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the minutes of December the 2nd, 2021.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you, James. All right, so motion made by James, second by Scott Zelinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And we're tabling December 16th. All right, up next, we have requesting for transfer comprehensive permit number 20-19 and 20-19M, Martin A. Maureen, you want to help me out? Sorry. Last name there? Smargiassi?
Yeah. I
Sure.
was gonna say.
All right.
Yeah. a mouthful.
Margiassi, President, IC Development, Inc., 0 and 213 North Falmouth Highway in North Falmouth.
So, Mr. Chairman, the zoning board of appeals has received a letter dated December 10th and received on December 14th of 2021 to Terrence J. Hury, Chairman, Zoning Board of Appeals, care of Falmouth Town Hall, regarding Wild Harbor 0 and 213 North Falmouth Highway, notice of transfer of comprehensive permit number 020-19 and 020-19M and 020-19T. Dear Chairman Hury, JMAC Construction LLC has recently executed a purchase and sale agreement with the Homes at Wild Harbor LLC to purchase the comprehensive permit for Wild Harbor condominium issued by the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals for a 16-unit condominium project, along with a 3.688-acre parcel of land located at 0 and 213 North Falmouth Highway, Mass. The permit, or the project. By way of background, on or about November 25th, 2019, the board issued the permit to the original applicant, Wild Harbor Condominium LLC, for the development of the project. Due to personal reasons, Wild Harbor Condominium LLC sought to locate a reputable, qualified, and financially capable developer to assume the rights and responsibilities of the permit. Accordingly, the Homes at Wild Harbor LLC acquired the property and has subsequently decided to sell the property and the comprehensive permit and has entered into agreement with JMAC Construction LLC. However, before they can acquire the property and move the project forward, they must receive the required approval to transfer the permit. The permit contains a condition, number 43, that states, quote, "This comprehensive permit shall not be transferred without the written approval of this zoning board of appeals," end quote. Pursuant to 760 CMR 5.0512, quote, "Prior to a substantial completion of a project, a comprehensive permit may be transferred to a person or entity other than the applicant upon written confirmation from the subsidizing agency that the transferee meets the requirements of 760 CMR 56.04 L, A, and B, and upon written notice to the board. Transfer of a permit shall not by itself constitute a substantial change to 760 56.074, end quote. JMAC Construction LLC hereby formally requests that the board issue written approval of the transfer of the permit from the Homes at Wild Harbor LLC to a new limited dividend entity, JMAC Construction LLC, as required by condition number 43 of the permit. Additionally, we request the board include in its approval a statement that the transfer does not constitute a substantial change pursuant to 760 CMR 560511. Under 760 CMR 560511, the board has 20 days to determine and notify Daniel C. McClone whether it deems this request to be substantial or insubstantial with reference to the factors set forth in 760 CMR 56074. We understand the board has a public meeting scheduled for January 13, 2022, which falls within the 20-day period. We respectfully request that the board consider this request at that meeting. We would be happy to make ourselves available to discuss any questions that the board may have. We look forward to working with the board and the town of Falmouth to make this a successful project. Attached, you will find the qualification letter from Mass Housing. Thank you for your attention. This matter, sincerely, JMAC Construction LLC by Daniel C. McClone, its manager. Mr. Chairman, there's also a letter from Mass Housing, addressed dated December 7, 2021, to Daniel C. McClone, JMAC Construction LLC, 150 Timothy Bourne Cartway, East Falmouth, Mass. Regarding request for comprehensive permit transfer approval, Wild Harbor Condominiums, MHID number 1016. Mr. McClone, in accordance with documents submitted to Mass Housing on November 29, 2021, Mass Housing has been informed that JMAC Construction LLC, hereinafter the applicant, intends to construct the above-referenced proposed 40B development. Mass Housing has received a request from the applicant pursuant to 760 CMR 5605-12B for confirmation that the applicant meets the requirements of 760 CMR 5604-1A and B. Mass Housing would generally make such confirmation of eligibility, including affirmation of the findings required under 760 CMR 56044 as part of Mass Housing's final approval review prior to commencement of construction. Nevertheless, given the stage at which this request has been made, Mass Housing is pleased to advise you that the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals, the ZBA, that Mass Housing has received and reviewed preliminary information regarding the applicant, and although our approval will be subject to review of the complete application for final approval, Mass Housing can confirm that, one, the applicant is eligible to apply as a limited dividend organization as required by 760 CMR 56041A and enter into a regulatory agreement with Mass Housing, thereby establishing the applicant as a limited dividend organization, and two, Mass Housing is not aware of anything that would prohibit it from finding the applicant meets the general eligibility standards of the New England Fund Program, or that the development will be fundable under Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston's New England Fund to meet the requirements of 760 CMR 56041B. Consequently, Mass Housing hereby confirms that the applicant meets the requirements of 760 CMR 56041A and B. Final approval from Mass Housing is required prior to commencement of any construction. We look forward to working with you and complete your final approval review. Copy of this letter should be submitted to the ZBA as required by 760 CMR 5605-12B. If you have any questions or concerning this letter, please call Monica Pisano at 802-488, and it's signed Jessica L. Malcolm, Manager, Planning and Programs.
All right, so I think it's fair to say that the request, just being a transfer of ownership, is an insubstantial change. Just for that, I would note prior to voting that the principal of JMAC Construction, under other legal entities within this town, he has other comprehensive permits, 40Bs in the works that currently have issues. So that I'm just making that note for the record. prior to voting.
Do you have any discussion? Is that where we're at now?
Sure, if you,
I just think that I'd like to see a fresh application, because there are certain spots that we've been neglecting to enforce. You know, there's a space on these applications that says, do you have any, and I don't know the exact terminology, but are you before the board with any inaccuracies or any of that? And nobody ever fills it in. So when you have the state saying we are not aware of anything, it's because we're not requiring them to put in, we're before them for this, we're before them for that, we're before them for this on this project. So until we start doing that, I think it's unfair for the state to be approving these just so freely without knowing that there's some challenges with some of these projects. And for that reason, I wouldn't be in favor of it until we clean up the application process with regard to what the state knows and what they don't know. That's where I'm at with it.
John? Anyone else?
I guess I agree with what Scott's saying, but I don't know. I'm not sure if this is the time to do that or not. It may be. Do we have any advice from the zoning administrator? We routinely approve these, but, you know, there's the issues that...
Yeah, I don't know, that's an unusual question. I think certainly you would have the right to correspond with Mass Housing or the state regarding issues you have. I don't know if that would affect your ability to approve or not the transfer.
All I'm looking for is the completion of the application. And until every box is filled in, they're not complete. Therefore, the state doesn't know that we have issues and challenges, and it's not just this applicant, it's all of the projects that we don't require that.
But I think that the issue here is that the comprehensive permit was already granted, so that whole process has taken place.
So that comprehensive permit has every single piece of it's going to be transferable to the new applicant succinctly, every single item. There's no change or no adjustments with monitoring agents, any of it?
Yeah, I don't
If
know.
you can't answer yes,
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
then we need to see it.
Well, we're transferring the permit and everything that goes along with the permit.
right, so you
We're not
would,
creating anything new or taking
yeah,
anything away.
your request is to transfer as is,
Thank you.
and that if there are any changes, et cetera, those would have to come back to you.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, you know, typically in a transfer, this is more of a, I don't know how you would correspond with the state regarding your concerns.
We wouldn't correspond. We would require the applicants to submit a complete application. So they either have to fill the blank spots that are appropriate or not disclose the fact that there are issues and challenges with their projects. And then that becomes an issue with the state and the, but at least we have done our job as a town and we've answered to all the people involved.
Right, so you will not be getting a new application
That's correct.
for the comprehensive permit at this point in time, because that comprehensive permit was already issued. So the only disclosure that might be made to the state would be whatever the applicant has provided directly to the state.
But if that permit doesn't, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No,
We need to start somewhere, Noreen. And this is a prime example of somebody having the plausible deniability to say because they didn't disclose, that previous builder may have a different set of circumstances that this one is experiencing now. And the only reason I reference this one is because that's what is before us.
I mean, I think we could still approve this with a notation of what Mr. Zelinski's saying. I mean, I find it hard to believe that we're transferring a permit and we're saying an approved permit or approved application that we've started in the process is not acceptable now because we're transferring owner. I mean, I just don't see, I mean, he's bringing up legitimate points and it can be in our letter to DCHD.
It's a little hard to enforce that after the fact, though.
Well, it's, you
Where
make
are
a
we
good
if this
point.
board decides that this is not an insubstantial change, forces a full hearing on this, correct?
I mean, the problem is that it's been identified that this is not within the realm of what they consider to be a substantial change. So that's pretty clear in the regulations that this is not within that category. So, yeah, it's puzzling to figure out exactly, I mean, it's an unusual circumstance where you have concerns.
That we want to have all the information disclosed, that's unusual.
But we've already gone beyond that. I
We
mean,
haven't gone anywhere. We haven't even voted.
I'm talking about the previous.
I didn't
permit.
vote on the previous one.
The board did. Did the board accept the application?
So we do not have any new application into the zoning board because we have an existing comprehensive permit
Right.
that was issued to an outside agency, and they have now sought to resell their approval as is. So nothing permission-wise has come into the zoning board other than the request to allow this transfer to take place.
So we've taken no other action on that comprehensive permit. I mean, I'm trying to get at, what Scott's saying, that if we haven't taken anything, any action on it, I think he's probably correct, but if we haven't had a hearing on it, right?
Right, and you typically would not unless there are changes that they have to bring forward to you.
But we don't know that.
Right.
So,
I'm confused. The application is before us, right?
So.
I mean, the permit application.
So the comprehensive permit was already issued, so that is not before you because that is done.
That's, okay.
But what has happened is the individual or agency that had been granted the permission is now looking to transfer that permission to another entity that Mass Housing has stated that they're approving.
I guess, maybe we request legal opinion on this, because I'd feel very hesitant not to approve this if, I don't know if Scott is correct or not correct. I think it's worthy of getting an opinion on this.
I share some of Mr. Chairman's concerns, and I certainly am I agree with Mr. Zelinski about, I'm getting very frustrated with some of these 40Bs and what's been going on. But having done one of these transfers in practice, that I do unfortunately think that it is not a substantial change. I think that denying it could just expose us to litigation or an appeal that would be unnecessary. So I share Mr. Zelinski's frustrations, and I have serious reservations about how some of these projects are going and what's been going on, but I think that unfortunately can probably grant the transfer. They're not changing the permit conditions at all. It's just a change in the developer. They're still subject to the requirements of the special permit. They're still subject to monitoring and so on. And if there's problems down the road, then it's going to have to be an enforcement issue with.
mind if I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
That being said, and taking that legal position, no matter who it is, how can you assure yourself when you transfer something so complicated and complex, knowing that it's going to, when it comes out the other end with the new applicant, that it's going to be the same thing that was approved prior?
It has to be. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
When was the last time one of them came through that was exactly the way it went in?
I think we're speculating.
As a practical matter, I absolutely agree
Okay,
with you.
I mean,
But I don't know.
I guess that's why we all have
From
a
a legal
vote.
perspective,
Why
I
we,
mean,
you know,
we've accepted.
permit says per plans, and that
Yeah.
they're expected to comply with the plans. It may not happen, but that comes down to an enforcement.
And I just feel like with the scope of everything that's going on lately, and not just with this applicant, with all of them, we are losing control of what is being, the conditions and what the findings are. And it's all becoming so convoluted because nobody can intervene. Nobody knows Because the state doesn't know.
That's not.
Because nobody's required.
If we've had an incomplete application, I think is what
Every
you're
one of
saying,
them's been incomplete.
then are we gonna go back after every other one that we have?
Jerry, you gotta start somewhere.
I think we're cherry picking. I agree with you. I just don't know what the legal basis is.
No.
I mean, we've approved this. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna defend it. We approved it, just the new owner, you know, we don't do.
Can you
Checks.
show me that every single
don't-
thing on that
I don't-
application is
I don't-
exactly the same as what he's gonna
I'm
have?
gonna assume it is until it's proven otherwise.
I'm not ready to vote on an assumption. I'd like to see it.
We don't review the entire permit again?
Well, so the problem here is there's no application before you.
Right.
It's literally just a property transfer, right? So
Right.
you're not granting anything to that developer other than the ability to purchase the property, and that previous comprehensive permit that was issued is still
Do
standing.
we have any documentation of what they submitted to the state?
No.
Or, no, we just have what they told the state and what the state assumes to be correct, and we get their response. That's all we're working
But
on.
what-
So I don't know what anybody said to anybody. We just know what they were told.
But they can't change anything on that permit. If they try to, it's inappropriate. They're asking for a more than
That's
administrative.
never happened before, Jerry.
I don't know what you're talking about. We've done.
I'm talking about, we deal with it constantly.
I think you're mixing
Oh,
up our
It was
frustration.
a misunderstanding, it
Well,
was this, it was
then-
site conditions, it was this, it was that. All I want is it to start right and for it to be followed, one time, that's all.
I think that's a good point to do in the future. I think we're trying to hold someone, I don't want to say unaccountable, but I think we're putting a legal standard that we've never put on anybody before. You've admitted we've approved applications without that one section filled out.
And you'll admit that every single time, and you can look back and I've asked the applicant on the record if he felt like, or they felt like, the application was totally complete. So their testimony was it was, but you
Okay.
can read it and see that it isn't.
Then we shouldn't have accepted it.
Well-
The board took an action. You may be your opinion, but the
That's
board
right, I'm
approved
satisfied with
that.
my opinion.
The board approved the permit.
So would we wait for the final approval from Mass Housing prior to us? They're saying that they're gonna approve, but there still hasn't been an approval.
Right, but that.
They need us
they-
to approve the transfer in order
Right,
for them
they
to get their
don't-
final
yeah.
So we're the
determination.
gating item first.
Well, we could still approve it with our concerns, you know.
Mr. Chairman, may I explain
Uh,
something?
So
Open
here's
meeting.
the problem. It's an open meeting item. It's technically an administrative item. We don't typically allow commentary, because it's essentially a public hearing if we allow testimony from anyone.
Just trying to offer clarification if I could.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the transfer as requested and a specific finding that it is not a substantial change pursuant to 760 CMR 560511.
I'll second that.
That it's not a substantial change?
It is not a substantial change. If you disagree with me, I will certainly respect it, but I just think that I am equally frustrated with you, Scott, about how these projects have gone, but
You can't have it both ways, James. So you gotta take a stance one way or the other. You
I
can't-
understand, but-
You either have grave concerns or you don't.
I do, but the.
So we all have a
permit-
vote.
The permit's not before us tonight, though. That's my concern as a
But we
matter of-
don't know what, we
Yeah,
don't know what's
We have a
coming.
motion before us. I think the next thing is we can discuss it more, but I think we've heard just about what everybody's opinion is, if they're not saying an opinion.
Right.
We just should move
Come
to
on, Jerry,
vote.
let's vote, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so James made the motion. I seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, so that.
Wait, we have two opposed?
Yep, so that's
Okay.
3-2,
Majority.
and under the comprehensive permit, simple majority passes, right?
Yes.
All right, so that passes. All right, up next, we have the status of 511 Burkiln Road, comprehensive permit number 50-20, Village at Burkiln LLC. Noreen, I'll defer to you. There's been some action on this property most recently. I think it was the subject of a cease and desist order that was recently lifted.
Yes. So, our office was contacted, noting that 511 Brick Kiln had site clearing ongoing prior to the soil erosion and sediment control being installed. Per the comprehensive permit, the building commissioner was, we have a part-time building commissioner, as you know, and there's been some staff issues with health issues. So I was able to contact one building inspector and I went out to the site and verified that the soil erosion and sediment controls were not installed. And we requested that the cease and desist be issued until the conditions were inspected. Subsequently, the peer engineer did do an inspection and verified that the conditions were what they were supposed to be prior to the work being done. We did have an issue where, unfortunately, the cease and desist order was issued on one day and work continued on the next day. The developer acknowledged that he essentially gave his workers permission to finish what they were doing. So I sent a subsequent email to the building department suggesting enforcement. And then work eventually did stop. And then they have complied with conditions, so they were allowed to resume work, which included demoing the existing house on the lot. But I guess the problem bounces back to your comprehensive permits and people not following conditions. We did have a pre-construction meeting. The intent of that pre-construction meeting is to target specifically the items that need to be done prior to site work commencing. The applicant attended that meeting but did not have any of the contractors present. So I don't know whether that information was just not shared with site workers or how that happened.
But there's not a plausible deniability clause in our decisions. It's the applicant's, it's their obligation to make sure whoever's working for them does what they're supposed to do, correct?
Correct. And I think the other piece of the problem is what you have in your toolbox to do something about this when these things happen. And you were able to get the cease and desist order. Obviously, the next day it was ignored. And then subsequently, they were, of course, concerned because they had more workers lined up to continue to do work. And they were advised that they were not able to do that prior to the peer inspector in approving the site.
So they had one day where they ignored the cease and desist?
Correct.
No, okay. Because when I went out there and I sent you a note, there was a gentleman there. He wasn't there just sitting around, but I didn't see him do work, but everything was in place that same day. And what he had said was that someone came out and approved the erosion control plan. I didn't ask him who. He said, he came over, I showed him my badge, and he said, the engineer has approved the erosion. I could see the wattles with my own eyes. And I sent you an email to that extent.
Right, so I did go out the day after the cease and desist was issued, and I did take videotape, just in the event that the issue arose to show that the work was ongoing. But we do have an email from the developer acknowledging that the work continued.
Noreen, who initiated the cease and desist? You?
Yes.
And if you hadn't gone by there that day, do you have the opinion that it would continue to go on if you hadn't seen it that day?
Absolutely.
What can we do now?
Isn't that the question, Jerry? What can we do now?
Well,
That's what we always say. That's what.
No. I think we can discuss it in a couple of weeks.
I'll say this, or I'll ask this to Noreen. Noreen, within that decision, is do we have that condition or that the applicant's subject to recall by this board?
Good point.
I don't know if that specific language was continued because there was some question about the validity of that language. That being said, we do have the standard language about any changes coming back. And I would say within that broad section, that would be a change because they obviously were doing work without proper inspection and permission.
Okay.
We did have a Zoom meeting with the pre-construction meeting. That Zoom meeting, we have, it was, taped, so we have a transcript that indicates what was specified to the developer. So there's not any question, or should not be a question about what is allowed and what's not.
And the
I think
developer has agreed that he violated the condition, then he violated the cease and desist. I mean, from your long list of
Right.
emails, right? I mean, I think that's,
I think part of it is that maybe we do have very long decisions, and I think people are maybe reading them, maybe not, and that primarily people realize that the penalty is insubstantial
correct.
compared to the gain that they get by proceeding with work that is outside of what's permitted.
I mean, isn't part of the prerequisites for these contractors to be experienced in order to even get these projects?
And this developer has,
It was in his testimony that they'd done many, many, many. So at some point, if there isn't some kind of, and I hate to say punitive because you couldn't do that, but it continues to be, I'm going to do whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's what it feels like in this instance, too.
I think we can write some tighter conditions. This and some other ones have happened because people have cleared and they says, I could not put in erosion control without clearing, and they didn't come back to us. In fact, this gentleman, when he put in the wattles, I believe that's an acceptable erosion control. That's a very simple thing to put in where you don't have to cut anything else down. And yes, his contractor should have, or engineer should have brought that up, but I think it's a lesson we learn and a lesson we can pass on. Digging a silt fence and putting it in properly involves some disturbance.
right.
It wasn't our decision to put the silt
Right,
fence in.
but we have not specified
I know.
what type of soil erosion and sediment
I agree.
control a particular site would be required. That's typically up to the
Correct.
peer inspector or town engineer.
Terms and
to
conditions
make
are up to the
those
contract.
determinations. But I think the problem is that the developers seem to be under the impression that they can't put those soil erosion and sediment controls in until they clear. So therefore, they have to clear in order to put them in.
And why wouldn't that be part of their presentation to us in the beginning? If that's such an issue, then it should be identified early on, so we're not recovering the same ground over and over.
But we could bring up, we could, because we've had 2 or 3 issues, and yeah, it was a violation, but it's also, if people had put a different erosion control, and we're not here to tell them what to put in, but if we know the site is wooded, it'd be a simple, you could just ask them in the pre-construction, or we could do it in the hearing to say, how do you intend to do this without tearing down trees?
Well, I think,
They might say, I don't know, but, we know now that wattles may be acceptable, or probably are acceptable. I defer to Scott, but our peer engineer said the wattles were acceptable.
Let me ask this, is there any precedent where a zoning board has filed a complaint against the developer, against the professional license? Like, let's say, I think your construction supervisor's license?
yeah, I'm not aware, but.
142A is pretty clear about what discipline will be taken if you don't obtain building permits, if you disobey a cease and desist order, you can lose your license.
Yeah, so, maybe, I don't know if that's something the board wants to pursue or consider. I think somehow,
Might get people to pay a little more attention to a cease and desist order.
yeah, I mean, it just doesn't seem to be that whatever the town does for enforcement is enough of an impression on people to make them follow the rules.
That, the other thing is what real damage was done? I went out there, the erosion control on the street, maybe they cleaned it up along that tree line. You have to say, okay, what, crime and what's the solution? It's not like we filled in all stuff. Are the wetlands people happy? I'm not sure. At one time, I thought there was concern.
Conservation did go out there and walk, because there is a shared lot line with conservation and with the town there.
Jerry, if there's intent, it's like saying I only stole a little money from the
No,
bank.
I
didn't, it's just the crime still got committed
I
in
disagree
that
with you.
instance.
You've had more construction experience than I do, but you go on a site.
With-
I don't
with-
know of a site that you can actually say.
We're
what
not 40
harm was
miles
done?
away from them coming back saying, this isn't working, can we work something else out and get the approval? But they
I
don't
agree.
do it, they just go ahead
And what-
and do what they want,
I
and then
don't
come
think we
back
could take
and we
away
got
this
it.
person's license.
I didn't say
think
anything about
But
taking
he was
away-
very responsive. He did, I mean, if he went on for a week, one day you could say, okay. I mean, I think just
No,
on the
but there was-
emails I
there
Because she
read.
burned them,
There was a cease and desist posted.
Yeah.
The developer was aware,
Yeah,
and the developer could have notified the workers that they were not able to work the next day.
correct. He didn't.
which was his responsibility, Jerry. you
Okay,
have to
I'm
admit.
not arguing that. It was 24 hours.
Yeah, but that's not acceptable, so the cease and desist,
Can't get a little bit pregnant.
it's an immediate cease and desist,
I think, well,
period.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but I think we've beat this horse to death right here, and until something changes, or somebody stands their ground, or somebody encourages somebody above us who does have the authority to administer some kind of enforcement, it's going to continue just like this. If that means we have to, you and I have to engage town management or the selectmen to bring this up. I think it's unfair to the public for us to hash all this over and over again, and they sit there and say, they're talking about it, but nothing's getting done. So it may be our responsibility as officers to push this issue a little bit professionally and down the right road. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm certainly willing to do that if
No, I agree, Scott.
You know,
So
maybe-
what are our options here?
So, well, what I would say is, I mean, it's unfortunate looking going forward, but it's
You're right.
certainly going forward, minimally when these projects come before the board, people can be advised that their licenses are going to be at risk if they fail to follow the terms. But, I mean, when you think about it, that would apply not just to 40Bs, but to every permit you issue, because you expect them to follow through on your conditions.
And when they represent themselves as experienced and all of that. And we have to take them as gentlemen and gentleladies to take them at their word.
But people make mistakes on, what was yes, we're frustrated because this is happening. We're equally frustrated that we don't have a tool to stop them. It's not like it's $500 a day if the cease and desist. I mean, there may be other things we could do, but yes, some people will say, I'd rather pay the penalty or come back and seek forgiveness. We're talking about a difference of, is someone double parked? Is someone blocking a road? There is a significant difference, or someone robbing a bank. Government is going to respond differently. We are frustrated, and I agree the frustration, but we don't have the proper tools, and I don't think
What are the proper tools, Jerry?
I don't think we can take anybody's license away.
I didn't say anything. What do you,
Well,
what
someone
do you
is-
think the proper tools are?
I think we have to discuss I think maybe right now, we know erosion control is the more significant one.
So are you willing to quantify by limit of time, they were only in non-compliance for 24 hours because she caught them in 24 hours?
I'm willing to quantify that from the time they were notified, they responded quickly, maybe not appropriately. But where does it say, I mean, thanks for going out there. If you hadn't,
We wouldn't know.
we wouldn't know. And
So
that would have been a different issue.
that kind of throws your 24 hours theory
No,
out
it-
because you can't guarantee that. We're only
I-
going to work
I am-
outside of our permit for
I'm
24
going by
hours.
the facts of what our tools are.
All I want, Jerry,
The
I'm
facts-
not trying to argue with you. I
Well, of
just
course
want
we
them
are
to play
arguing.
by the rules. That's all I want.
And we should play by the rules, and there should be a strict set of rules that say.
We are playing by the
Okay,
rules.
what's the violation for one-day violation of cease and desist? $500, $1,000?
No, they should come back before the board and explain why they
They-
did
they
it or why they ignored it.
They should, but
It's
they
in the
did-
permit.
They should, but they didn't, so what's the penalty?
I would
It's not a
encourage the
criminal.
building department to cease all work until they come back before this board and explain themselves and give some kind of attestament to why they made those decisions.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, I'm not looking to go after anybody's money or their license. I just want them to be accountable for what they promised
you-
they would do.
You have to make the penalty somewhat commensurate with the crime. If you don't, and I shouldn't say the crime, the
Or the
violation.
penalty.
The violation.
The
We
violation.
just want them to be accountable. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay, but it's on us to try to make it so it's more. Maybe we have someone that goes out there every day on a 57G, we increase our inspection. That will hurt them in the pocketbook.
I don't think this is I can't imagine this has not come up in other municipalities. So I guess
Yeah.
my suggestion is, I'd like to know through you, Mr. Chairman, to the zoning administrator, or perhaps to the MMA, what have other communities done, thinking outside the box, to deal with this? When you have developers
that.
who are not playing nice or not following
Right, at least
conditions.
we'd have something to go to them with.
That's
Yeah,
a
I
good
think that's-
question. I mean, certainly other communities that I have worked in, it was a high priority of the community to have people follow the rules. And as soon as they were not followed, that was the end.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if the town is not supporting and promoting that this is how things are to take place, and that there's not a penalty, you're not gonna get change until the whole town is following the same procedures,
Correct.
right?
How did those communities that you're discussing, how did they do it? Were they successful?
Absolutely.
So what did they do, pull their permits or pull the project?
Because it wasn't tolerated, so
Yeah, but what-
anytime
what
they
did-
would catch somebody,
Okay, go ahead.
work was stopped, period.
How did they stop the work if someone ignored it?
Cease and desist. No, people,
So there's an ethic in that community,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, typically cease and desist orders that I've seen in the past, people took literally to mean you're not to do work. You're to stop now, right in the middle of whatever you're doing, and leave.
I'd like to just make a suggestion that Terry and I approach town management with our concerns and and ask for some possible guidance and solutions to work together to at least make a start
Yes.
to correcting this.
Right.
I mean,
We can
if
certainly do
everybody's in
that.
agreement, I mean, I don't want to go and overstep my bounds, but we are all frustrated and we all want it to work right. But it starts this big.
Correct.
You gotta make your bed in the morning, you know what I mean? So it starts somewhere, and it might as well start with us.
Do we have a new building commissioner yet? Probably not.
You do not.
That could be part of the discussion, is there going to be additional assistance to do inspection?
Jim, can we move on from this?
Sure can. All right, so Scott and I will follow up with the
Yes.
town administrator.
And I'll make the time,
Yep.
Terry, I mean, it's important.
We'll follow up with the town administration, the town manager's office rather, regarding that.
I mean, like gentlemen, I mean, we don't have to get heated.
No,
I mean, we just
absolutely.
have to express that we have a responsibility to both sides, the community and building in town.
And Noreen, to the extent possible, can we keep eyes on that development? And
Yes.
And Jonathan's aware now, right? So he's gonna be making periodic passes, maybe?
I don't know.
Well, that'll be part of our discussion, sorry.
It could
All
be
right.
part of a
so we're all
peer
set,
review.
all set with that then?
Yeah.
Because we have another one to discuss. Status of Beach Plum Path, formerly
Chairman,
Zero.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, you know that I
Yep.
recused myself with
Apologies for
anything.
that, Scott, thank you.
I'll remove myself.
All right, status of Beach Plum Path, formerly Zero Locust Field Road, Lot 2, comprehensive permit number 6-19, Locust Field LLC. Maybe the conversation on this topic can be a little quicker than the previous one, because I do have a few things written up on this. So regarding Beach Plum Path, there have been numerous concerns have been brought to the board's attention per condition 35 of the comprehensive permit. Any deviation, no matter how minor, from plans submitted and approved shall be submitted to the board for approval. Prior to implementation of said change, the zoning administrator may make a determination as to whether the changes are minor in nature and can be approved administratively, or whether they will require a hearing for an amendment. Changes made prior to an approval may be subject to a full hearing and are at risk that the ZBA may deny the request, subjecting any unapproved construction to be ordered undone. Per condition 45, the Zoning Board of Appeals reserves the right to recall the applicant with such notice as the board deems proper to discuss unresolved matters of concern. And I would ask if the board is requesting the developer to attend a future meeting to discuss corrective measures. And these are some of our concerns that we do have, and I'll circle back on a future board meeting date. Number one, typical landscape plan prepared by ML Corridosi dated February 7th, 2018 has not been complied with. There are no arborvitaes installed, and much of the other landscaping does not match that plan. Many homes have no plantings on sides of the dwellings. Two, there are no bounds have been installed, and that was per engineering. They estimate that cost to be $17,150. Three, certification by a registered engineer or surveyor has not been provided to date. Four, following the water main repair, engineering should be called to inspect the road repair. Five, the approved plan shows a 4.5-foot width sidewalk. Upon engineer's inspection, they found the sidewalk ranging from 3.8 feet to 4.4 feet. 6, 521 CMR 22.2 requires walkways not less than 48 inches. In several locations, it was discovered that they were less than 4 feet as required. 7, modifications to the pavement at the T turnaround area were made without any inspection by the town, and therefore there is no way to know if conditions were complied with. Number 8, the approved plans show the T turnaround 80 feet long and 22 feet wide. As constructed, that T turnaround is approximately 86.5 feet long, 20.9 feet wide. The town standards are 80 feet by 18 feet. The fire department has expressed concerns regarding a free and clear turnaround area as approved. Due to the amended siting of the driveway for number 18 Beach Plum connecting into the T turnaround. And 9, the bus shelter is not completed as of January 12, 2022. So there have been correspondences and emails to the board. A lot of those conditions were expressed by engineering. So those are the major concerns with this project. So I would ask the board members if we are interested in the developer attending a future board meeting per the condition 45, that we were reserving the right to recall the applicant with notice to discuss unresolved matters of concern.
I make that, we need a motion or consensus?
Yeah, we would need a consensus and then a date to effectively provide notice to the developer and to discuss those items.
I would suggest that we do need to have the developer back, and that we should put this as a priority item on the agenda.
Yes. Would we not have a peer I'm sorry.
So this project was approved prior to the board conditioning peer engineers. So town engineer has been doing the inspections.
Maybe it's to discuss in the future. Can we now request a peer engineer?
Well, we do.
Well, we have them. Those are part of our comprehensive permit.
No, but for this one.
No, so this project is
it's on us.
Virtually finished.
I mean, it's on. I mean, I think we may need someone from the engineer here, or the Well, let's just settle on the date, what we need to be here to, yeah.
Should we get town engineer here for that meeting, or?
Uh,
I mean, I would prefer sooner rather than later. There's been a lot of requests, a lot of complaints. People have been coming to these
Yep.
meetings, to speak about this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think I'd rather do it sooner rather than later, unless you think that having town engineering department here would be more productive. 'Cause I would frankly like to put somebody's feet to the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the benefit of town engineering being here, other than identifying the issues. I mean, I think they're frustrated in that, you know, they're expecting to go out and look at the plan and compare what we approved with what is built.
Right.
And when they find discrepancies or things that don't comply, it raises concerns for them. It raises concerns for the fire department to not have that turnaround that they had agreed to in the beginning. But I think, you know, the way to resolve this is to have the developer work with town engineering on these outstanding matters, and to essentially come back to the board and either state that they've been
Good suggestion.
repaired or how they're going to be corrected.
And the fire department, right, on the turnaround?
Right.
Because I know it's not here, but part of that is, do we put a gate in? Do they repave certain things? There's a lot of other, not, maybe it's minutia, but detail that's gonna go along with some of these being resolved.
When can we get them in then, Noreen? When can we get the developer here?
How about February 10th?
All right, February 10th. Would anyone like to make that motion then?
Has he seen this yet, February? This list of concerns?
So this is essentially established from the report that the town engineer created, which I'm sure that the developer has had access to.
Okay.
And then this also reflects, the landscape plan is actually from our comprehensive permit. So, you know,
Okay.
that was a check to see, did they basically install the plantings that they had agreed to, and it appears that that's not the case. But,
So the contractor should be aware of all these things.
correct.
He's been CC'd on the fire department's concerned about the T turnaround. Okay.
So what we can do is certainly share this list with them,
That-
and, you know, expect that they will be in touch with town engineering, and then they should come
And the
in
fire department.
to the board, correct, and either have everything corrected or demonstrate how that's going to be corrected.
All right,
I'll move that we ask the developer, we recall the developer for the February 10th meeting.
all right, motion is
Fair
made by James. Is there a second?
I second.
Second, I'll give that one to, I don't know, who said it
Doesn't
first,
matter.
Jerry? Jerry, I'll give it to you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. All right. It'll be on the agenda for February 10th. All right, we'll wait for Scott to come back in. There he is. Welcome back, Scott. All right, board updates. Is there anything?
I was just going to say, have we not had such a substantial list?
I think we should congratulate Noreen and, I forget,
Ashley?
Ashley. I mean, all the paperwork that's gone on in the last month or so. Additional paperwork that's not really needed. They've done a great job.
I think that's the unfortunate problem, is that every time something goes wrong or an issue is raised, that's sort of the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And that, following up on that, checking in with people, trying to find out what went wrong, why did it go wrong, how do we fix it? It's a big drain on time. And I can certainly appreciate why enforcement might be something that people tend not to touch, because it's a drain.
And it's not our headache.
But on the
theoretically.
other hand,
A
you're
responsibility.
left with, here's what you approved and here's what you get.
Yep.
And it's not lining up the way it should. I mean, it's not ever going to be perfectly exact, but people should exercise far more care than they
De
do.
minimis changes should be de minimis.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
And we bust our tail trying to be explicit in our decisions. And it's frustrating
It is.
when they're interpreted so differently.
Cavalierly.
You know, and I think the other part is for the neighbors, certainly, who come to all the meetings. And when you show them a plan, you say, look, this is what we're approving, and everybody accepts that. And then you find that it's not built according to the approved plans.
Their attention should be equal to the attention we give the contractors. They're all taxpayers of this town. And everybody should get a fair shake, whether on the good side of it or the bad side of it. We should still treat everybody equally with respect to how we serve the town.
You know, and I think,
And it makes us look bad when we have no control over the things that we deem to be appropriate, Noreen.
you know, and I think when yourself and the chair are having a communication with the town management, you know, would also be, I think, of value to discuss these enforcement matters. I did have a meeting with some town personnel about enforcement, and by and large, what they said is that, well, we try to, you know, remind people to do the right thing, and, you know, so they're trying not to fine people, they're trying to encourage people to.
I mean, it's a tough time in the world.
Right.
I mean, you know, your word should be good enough.
Right. But when you expect, you know, when the board issues work hours, and then we have reports that work is taking place outside of work orders, out of work hours, right? And then the town is expecting the abutters to prove
It's not
that,
their
you know,
job.
at 5 a.m., somebody's there making all kinds of noise. It's really rather unfortunate to expect people to take that extraordinary step to prove their concerns.
I understand the town's position, you know, carrot versus stick, but it's sooner or later, you gotta stop passing carrots out, trying to get compliance, and you have to just command it.
And when you have lawyers on the board, with all due respect, they look at things a little different than the sensitivity. They look at the legal aspect of it too, which maybe I don't see sometimes because before I was on this board, I was just Joe Blow, you know, that had to abide by the rules. We never have any trouble with regular applicants that come up. They're happy to abide by their special permits. They feel fortunate that they're allowed to do that. And 9 times out of 10, they do it correctly and in earnest.
I think it's, you know,
So I
particularly.
don't want to paint them with the same brush.
No. And it's particularly difficult when you're granting a gift, right? So you're allowing somebody to have 4 times the housing or whatever it is that would be allowed on a property in furtherance of creating affordable housing. So it's a grant that the town gives, but that somebody is not respectful of the fact that you're giving them that permission, that they can't follow
Well,
the
the
rules.
financial benefit that other people don't get. That's why they get so ornery when they have to play by the rules and the rest of them get all the benefits of the 40Bs and things like that, and they have to tow their own haul. Play by the same rules, but pay the full tilt boogie on it. So, I mean, that's where they get heartburn on it. Chairman, you like to know I'm done. Sorry.
No, that's all right, Scott. Well said to all your points, absolutely. All right, anything else? I think that was board updates / board discussion all rolled into one. All right, up next, we do have our Saturday morning meeting, January 29th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Before the meeting got underway tonight, there was a list circulating about what we'll
I
all
didn't see
bring
it.
for breakfast.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yep.
May I just inquire, does anyone have any food allergies that I should be
Oh,
aware of
good
before I
point.
make
That's a
anything?
great question. I don't think we've ever asked that, so.
All right.
Good one. Anyone? Dietary restrictions? No one's allergic to nuts?
Are we still waiting for a date for the tower to go back out there and look at the Are we still waiting for a date?
I think it's
They
the
pushed it off to January
Yeah,
22nd, right?
22nd.
Because
Oh, it is the 22nd. Maybe I missed that.
All right. Future agenda items, anything?
More work.
All right. More work is right. All right, so our next meeting is here at Town Hall, January 27th at 6:30. See everyone then. Meeting adjourned.